Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became the supreme Uchiha god, and Samui, Anko, Hinata, Ino and Temari ruled beside him part 3. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. I would like to see that boar. You talk a big game yet you never really back it up when challenged, so what's it gonna be? Are you going to fight or not? She said standing. Boar said nothing and left. Cat shook her head and sighed. I seriously don't understand how he is in the Anbu still nobody in the division likes him. She said. Anyway, are you alright Naruto? You look a mess. Yeah, I'm fine. I had a clone remove the 5-pronged seal he put on me already. My control may take a hit for a few hours. I need to go meet up with my team. I'll see you guys later. He vanished. So how good was he fighting against Orochimaru? Kat asked. I don't know, all they used was taijutsu, however Orochimaru said he went as Sasuke at low Chunin level and even bragged about him having his Sharingan and Naruto didn't, but me and you know he already has it matured. Which is true. Anko, Yugao, Kurenai, Hinata, Shino and the Hokage are the only people that know about his matured Sharingan, however only Anko knew about his Mangekyo and the ending result of it. However, when he tried to rush him at low Chunin he already had Naruto's fist in his stomach. Naruto said not to underestimate him just because he isn't using his Sharingan. Orochimaru didn't pick up on this, so they took of it mid Chunin and he was still keeping up. Eventually they reached low Chunin speed and Naruto still kept up with him. Mind you, all this is without his Sharingan active, but as the fight went on I don't know what it was, but this pressure started to come off of Naruto. It was like ki, but it was calm and relaxed, but Orochimaru blurred away at his full speed to end it since he felt U2 coming and slapped the 5-pronged seal on Naruto and left. He also tried to mark Naruto after he taunted him and gave him a free shot, but it didn't work for some reason. He did mark Sasuke though and threatened to not cancel the exams. Kat nodded, taking all of this in. We need to go see the Hokage about this. Anko nodded and they left in a swirl of leaves. Naruto reaches his team's campground and let out a pulse of chakra in code letting them know it was him. The barrier opens and he enters but sees Hinata's clothes wrinkled and Shino had his glasses crooked on his face. Naruto gave them a knowing smile making them both blush. No kind of was involved was it? He asked as they both shook their heads. We're too young. I'm not ready for that. We were only kissing. Hinata said blushing. Thought. The other sound ninja both were shocked by how easy it was for Naruto to defeat Zaku. Here is our scroll. Take it, we don't want to cause any more trouble. The mummy-looking sound ninja said, placing their earth scroll on the ground and picked up his teammate. The other followed after him. Get down here right now. Naruto said out loud, confusing everyone before Neji and Tenten dropped down. Tenten immediately went to scolding Lee while Naruto glared at Neji. Why didn't you help your teammate? Instead you chose to hold Tenten back. It was not our fight. If he was foolish enough to jump in that fight then he should deal with the consequences. Neji said arrogantly. Next thing he knew a fist knocked the air out of him making him drop to his knees. If you're foolish enough to say something like that around me then you deal with the consequences. Naruto said and went to check on everybody. After 10 minutes everybody was patched up and Kiba tried to fight Naruto but everybody minus Neji told him not to, but he didn't listen and charged at Naruto who punched him in the nose ending that little fight. They were all about to leave when a sinister chakra came from the tree Sasuke was under. He came out with black markings and purple chakra around him that was dark and sinister. This power he gave me. I can feel it growing stronger every second that passes. He looks around and sees everybody moving back from the sinister chakra except Naruto who just stands there. Naruto, I want to test this new power out against you. He said with a cruel smile and activated his Sharingan with 1 tomo in his right eye and 2 in his left eye. The others are about to step in but Naruto holds his hand out at them. Stay out of this. It was going to happen sooner or later. Let him have some fun. You all know what I'm capable of when I'm not even trying. He said, getting nods from the others. He motions for Sasuke to come at him. Due to his curse mark his speed increased to mid Chunin and every punch or kick he threw at Naruto was dodged easily, so he jumped back and went through hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He blew a large fireball at Naruto who covered his hand in water chakra, putting the fireball out, shocking everyone looking at him. He vanished in a shunshin and put Sasuke in a chokehold until he passed out. Everyone was in shock at how easy he took Sasuke out. Naruto dropped the extra earth scoop and his team left for the tower. It didn't take them long, they were the second team there. The Suna team was the first to make it. They had 3 days left so they relaxed. 3 days later they are in the Chunin exam stadium. The Hokage starts to go through his speech about the true meaning of the Chunin exams until Naruto raises his hand. Yes, Naruto. Hiruzen said. I don't want to be disrespectful but at the same time I want to, so can you speed it up? I don't think any of us are paying attention and you are pretty old, maybe you should take a seat and let us get started. Besides we both know you don't like saying the stupid speech. He said, shocking everyone that he can just talk to the Hokage like that. Fine Naruto Hayate you're up. He said and Hayate arrived. Alright my name is Hayate and I'm the proctor for this part of the exam since there are still too many of you we need to have an elimination tournament of one-on-one matches until there are a certain amount left. Now if anybody wants to quit you may do so now. He said. Kabuto was the first to raise his hand to the shock of Sakura, Sasuke and Kiba. Alright you got me, I give up. He said. Kabuto, why are you quitting? Sakura asked. I'm low on chakra right now from too much fighting. I can't go on any further. He was about to leave until Naruto spoke up. Or is it because you're a? Naruto said causing Kabuto to stop walking. What did you say? He asks in a low cold tone. You heard me. I thought you were feeling lucky. I never knew your mother raised you to quit like a bitch, she must be disappointed in you. I mean you claim you're out of chakra yet you're not even breathing heavy. If you're a just say so and we will understand. But if you aren't stay and fight like a man. Unless of course you want to go find a man so you can have him fondle your balls and play with your asshole if you like that, I'm not judging everyone has their own preferences. He said. Proctor I changed my mind I will fight. Kabuto said and got back in line. Okay anybody else that wants to quit? Hayate asked and Sakura and Ino raised their hands and said they weren't ready to be a Chunin yet so they walked up to the balcony. Sakura told Sasuke to back out so he can get his mark checked out and he refused. Anko was having the same thoughts but Kakashi argues against her so she just dropped it if he wants his student to have the curse mark so be it. Okay since 2 people dropped out somebody will have to fight 2 maybe 3 times and somebody may not fight at all if the person fights 3 times. Does anybody want to take that chance of fighting 2 maybe 3 times? I do. Naruto said, raising his hand. Hayate nodded and Anko presented a board. This board will randomly select 2 names once your name appears, you and your opponent will come down to the arena for your match. The matches go on until I say stop killing is allowed but we will try to avoid it. Hayate said as the board starts to go through names it selects 2 names. Kiba Inuzuka versus Naruto Uchiha. Will Kiba and Naruto stay in the arena? Everyone else go up to the balcony and wait your turn. Hayate said everyone leaves except Naruto and Kiba. I hope you're ready to go down you street rat. It's time that you learned your place in this world. Kiba said. Start the match. Was all Naruto said. Okay match number 1 between Kiba Inuzuka and Naruto Uchiha begins. Hayate said and jumped away. Now up on the balcony Kakashi decided to taunt teammate while Sasuke activated his Sharingan to try and copy some of Naruto jutsus. He would soon be disappointed. Your student might as well back out now Kurenai I've managed to get Kiba's taijutsu up to almost mid-Chunin level which is almost as good as yours and you're a Junin, so unless you were able to train Naruto I don't think he will win. Kakashi said while reading his book. Oh I hate to burst your bubble but Naruto beat me in a spar in taijutsu and I was going all out and it didn't look like he was trying much. So the past 4 months while you were reading your smut I was training my team with the help of Anko in our taijutsu and ninjutsu. My taijutsu is almost as good as Anko and I've learned some ninjutsu. However Naruto is the strongest on the team including me the only people I think would be able to beat Naruto in a taijutsu fight are Guy, Jiraiya and the Sandaime. At the least overall I would put Naruto at your level while Shino and Hinata are mid-Chunin overall. She said shocking everyone present that she, a rookie Junin, had the strongest genin team, maybe even stronger than Guy's team. Sakura decides to speak up. No way those bakas are stronger than Sasuke-kun I bet you're just making that up so. She was cut off by Kurenai putting a silencing seal on her. What Kurenai says is true. Sakura was it. Tenten asked, getting a nod from Sakura, who couldn't speak. Didn't you see what he did to Sasuke in the forest? It's not even fair to compare them, he completely toyed with him. She said. Tenten, what do you mean by that? Guy asked. What I mean is whatever happened to Sasuke in the forest gave him a major power boost and he fought Naruto moving at mid-Chunin speed, but Naruto dodged every attack like it was nothing. Sasuke got mad and shot a large fireball jutsu. Naruto, who just lifted his hand and caught it while putting it out. I don't know how he did it, but it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Tenten said. Everyone was shocked by this and returned to watch the match, but it was already over. 2 minutes earlier. Akamaru, stay out of this. I won't need you for him. I'll take him in one blow. Hiba said. Naruto stayed quiet and built up some wind chakra. Ninja art, beast mimicry. All fours jutsu. Hiba came charging at him in low Chunin speed, however Naruto stopped him with his jutsu. Wind style. Sonic boom jutsu. Hiba was stuck in a tunnel of wind while small crescent blades of wind cut him up. The jutsu ended and Hiba fell to the ground, cut up and in pain. He stood up but found a fist in his stomach. His eyes rolled to the back of his head and he was knocked out. Winner Naruto Uchiha. Everybody was stunned but Anko, who was cheering for Naruto. He went up to the balcony and everyone was staring at him. What? He asked. We learned about your little fight with Sasuke. Kurenai said, pissing Sasuke off. Oh, as all he said. Is that all you have to say? Ino asked. Yeah, it is. I have a question, Fishcake. Tenten asked. His eye twitched and everyone chuckled at the nickname. What is it, Panda-chan? He asked. How did you catch his fireball and put it out like that? She asked. I'm surprised you don't remember. When we were in the orphanage and would play ninja, I would always catch the imaginary fireball and throw it back or put it out. I was training one day and figured I'd give it a try. I used a shadow clone, of course, and after a lot of test runs and experiments with chakra natures, I figured it out. I can catch it and throw it back with fire nature chakra, or I can catch it and put it out with water chakra. He said. Wait, you mean to tell me you got that idea from a game we played as kids? She said. Yeah, pretty much. He said. They were cut off by the next match being announced. Will Yorori Akato and Sasuke Uchiha please come down? Hayate announced. Yorori, after a brief talk with his sensei, who Naruto knew was Orochimaru, that was the worst disguise ever, walked down to the arena. Orochimaru looked up, felt someone looking at him and met Naruto's eyes. Naruto decides to mess with him by activating his 3-Tomo Sharingan. Orochimaru had an angry look on his face since his curse mark couldn't get placed on Naruto. Then a look of realization was on his face. He was holding back in the forest when we fought. Orochimaru thought Naruto, seeing Orochimaru understood, just smirked and only caught the end of Sasuke's match. Lion's Barrage. Kabuto to Inoichi. Inoichi knew he only had 3 minutes, so he went in and got what he needed and covered his tracks. Kabuto's mind looked how it did before Inoichi entered his mind. He nodded to Naruto, who took Kabuto to the medic bay at the stadium. He felt Orochimaru coming and suppressed his chakra before leaving undetected. He made it back in time to see the next match being called. He guessed Choji lost, but they said Choji did impress the judges in his match versus Dosu by the way he fought and had to come up with plans on the fly. It was a good 10-minute match, they said. He didn't even know he was gone that long. Naruto versus Rock Lee. This match will begin in 2 minutes, giving Naruto some time to catch his breath. Hayate said. Lee and Guy for the past 2 minutes were going on about the flames of youth, and Naruto just sat there meditating, getting his breathing under control and let his wounds heal up, which took 45 seconds for them to be done. So he just sat there meditating and people tried to talk to him, but Anko and Kurenai told them to stop and leave him be. They both knew why Naruto was acting like this. His taijutsu was mostly self-taught from his mother's scroll. He was going up against the student of a taijutsu master who Naruto had no doubt was the strongest genin besides himself in terms of taijutsu. If they had to guess, Naruto knew he would struggle if Lee knew how to open any of the celestial gates after the second gate. A buzzer was heard and the 2 minutes were up. It was time for the final match of the exhibition matches. Will Rock Lee and Naruto Uchiha please come to the fighting area? Hatate announced. Lee became serious, having been wanting to fight Naruto since he saw them in the forest. Naruto simply stabbed the Kubikiribocho in the ground and left his weapons pouch with the sword and put gravity seals on them so nobody would steal them. They both looked at each other seriously and turned and walked down opposite sets of stairs into the fighting area. The final match of the exhibition matches between Rock Lee and Naruto Uchiha. He said. Begin. Hayate jumps away but goes to the balcony with the Hokage. He had a feeling this fight was going to be out of control. Everyone in the arena had their eyes glued on the two fighters. The Junin and Anbu could feel the tension in the air between them, but they knew it wasn't due to hatred or hostility between the two. It was out of respect. Naruto respected Lee because of his hard work, and Lee respected Naruto because even though he was stronger than all of the genin, he never once flashed it and helped his team become better. After settling into their respective fighting stances, Naruto in his Kame style and Lee in his Goken style. Neither moved for about 2 minutes until Lee shot forward with a punch that Naruto easily blocked. Lee, not being one to give up, backed off and appeared behind Naruto and swung a roundhouse kick at Naruto's head, which he ducked and quickly got into Lee's guard and gave him 3 quick strikes to his ribs before he did a spinning kick, knocking Lee to the ground, causing him to roll, but Lee corrected himself and did a handstand, bouncing back up to his feet. The genin in the arena had their jaws hanging open at what they just saw. However, the Junin and Hokage knew they were just testing each other. Lee, take them off. Guy said. Lee nodded and took off the weights, throwing them to the side, causing a huge amount of dust to kick up. The genin were shocked that his weights were so heavy. Lee instantly appeared in front of Naruto with another punch that Naruto blocked. Lee disappeared again and kicked Naruto's legs from underneath him and gave a front kick, sending Naruto rolling into the wall. But as soon as Naruto hit the wall, he stood and sped in front of Lee, shocking him momentarily. He used that to his advantage and knees Lee in the gut, causing him to lean forward, which got him a knee to the chin and 3 more punches, but this time Naruto gave him 2 punches in the ribs and a straight jab to the face, staggering Lee. Then he gave Lee a front kick, sending him to the wall. After a couple seconds, Lee came out of the wall. His jumpsuit was torn a bit and he had a busted lip. They looked at each other before disappearing. This time they were a blur to everybody that couldn't see Junin level speeds through kicks, punches, elbows, knees and an occasional headbutt at each other. Each one was connecting, and sometimes their fists would hit each other, resulting in a small shockwave. They were met in a stalemate with Lee holding one of Naruto's fists and Naruto doing the same. Lee gave Naruto a knee to his gut and an upward kick to the chin, then gave a few quick punches to Naruto's ribs and kicked him away, sending him flying back. As soon as Naruto stood, Lee was on him again. He came spinning towards Naruto with a kick. Leaf Hurricane. Naruto barely had time to block. He managed to cross his arms in front of him, but the force behind the kick sent him into the wall. Naruto stayed in the wall for a few seconds. His shirt was torn up, but he didn't care. He went through hand signs and said a move nobody thought they would see again. Dance of the Teleporter. He started moving so fast using the Shunshin that it started to create after images, but to the genin watching the fight, all of the after images started beating Rock Lee, who was doing his best to avoid and block the kicks and punches but was failing. He was getting knocked around so much that Might Guy was worried about his student. After the jutsu ended, Lee was bruised and had cuts all over him. After a few seconds he was standing up in his stance, breathing. He started to unwrap the wrist tape he had on and begun running around Naruto in a circle, going faster and faster until he suddenly appeared in front of Naruto and kicked him in the air and jumped up after him, giving him a few more before wrapping him up in the wrist tape. He grabbed Naruto and started a corkscrew spinning motion, going head first to the floor. Take this, Lee said. Primary Lotus. Naruto crashed into the ground while Lee jumped away at the last second. Everyone was waiting for the cloud of dust to settle and see the condition of Naruto. After a while the dust settled and revealed Naruto standing, although he was supporting some cuts on his body now. Lee and Guy are in shock that he is able to stand after that. How are you standing after that? Lee asked. I covered my body in a layer of chakra, cancelling out some of the damage I would have taken. Although you didn't give me much time to create the layer, but I managed to pull it off. Naruto said after that he noticed Lee was in pain and he rushed him and started beating him with punches and kicks. Lee jumped back, but Naruto appeared in front of him as soon as he landed and started giving him more punches. The beating Lee was taking almost made Guy want to jump down and stop the fight, but he remained on the balcony. The genin on the other hand were shocked. They never seen such a fight in their life. While the Leaf Junin knew it was a no-brainer that if not both, one of these two would get promoted to Chunin. Meanwhile, Naruto just landed a vicious punch to Lee's gut, lifting him off the ground, and then a strong right hook making Lee stumble, and he rushed him again. He delivered an uppercut and started raining down lefts and rights, and of them connecting. After 15 seconds of non-stop left and right punches, he stopped and looked at Lee, whose arms were limp at his side. He gathered chakra into his fist and gave a straight jab, sending Lee flying into the wall. Lee, Tenten and Guy yelled, worried about their student and teammate. After 2 minutes, Lee came out of the wall bloodied and breathing heavy. He took a stance, but this time his arms were crossed in the position of an X. Naruto, knowing what was coming, released his resistance seals and activated his Sharingan. Resistance seals. Release. Now the Junin and Genin, including his team, were shocked. Asuma spoke up. Kurenai, what the hell have you been teaching your students? I didn't teach him that. He already knew Fuinjutsu when he came to my team. He gave all of us resistance seals, in fact, but I thought he already deactivated them given how fast he was moving. She replied. Guy sensei, why doesn't Lee just give up? I don't think he can take any more beatings. Sakura said. That's because the Leaf Village lotus blooms twice. Guy responded. Huh, I've heard that before. Yeah, Lee said something like that to me in the Forest of Death. She replies. But that means. No, Guy, you didn't. Kakashi stated. Oh yes, Kakashi, I did. Guy responded. So you're telling me that Genin, that boy, can open the 8 inner gates and use the Hidden Lotus? Kakashi said. Hidden Lotus. Neji thought, hearing the conversation between them. That's right, I did. Guy said. Well, if that isn't the most. Okay, so how many gates can he actually open? Kakashi asked. 5 gates. Guy answered. Okay, what are these 8 inner gates and the Hidden Lotus you're talking about? Sakura asked, tired of being ignored. The 8 inner gates are like valves or chakra limiters that must be opened if one wants to release the Hidden Lotus. Guy says. I still don't get it. She said. There are 8 chakra gates along the chakra network. Located at those points in the body is where the chakra is the most heavily concentrated. Starting at the head, there is the gate of opening, the gate of rest, the gate of life, the gate of pain, the gate of closing, the gate of joy, the gate of shock, and finally the gate of death. These are what is called the 8 inner gates. Their purpose is to limit the amount of chakra through the body, but the lotus exerts tremendous pressure on these limiters, eventually forcing the gates open. This releases the restraints on the chakra, the result being that a person's strength can be increased tenfold or more. Kakashi said as he lifted his headband, revealing his Sharingan. The primary only opens the first gate, the gate of opening, releasing the brain's restraints on the muscles, freeing the person to bring forth the body's strength to the full extent. You've seen the results. Guy continued. What about the Hidden Lotus? Sakura asked. At the second gate, the gate of rest, one's strength is increased further, and at the third gate, the gate of life, one enters the Hidden Lotus. Guy said. But the primary lotus almost destroyed him. He could barely move. What would happen to him if he takes it farther? She asked. Exactly, by opening all 8 gates you can obtain strength, even then cages, the only drawback is you die. Kakashi said, shocking Sakura. I don't know what that boy means to you, Guy, but I shouldn't have to tell you we never bring personal feelings into play. I never thought you were capable of this. Kakashi said, you have no right. You know nothing about him, nothing at all. He has something to prove, something he will prove even at the cost of his life, and I am determined to help him reach his goal, not for his sake but because that goal is worth reaching. Besides, Naruto was on your team before he was paired with Kurenai. You never trained him. You spent all your time training Sasuke because he reminded you of yourself when you were his age, which, may I remind you, isn't a good thing. So don't tell me how to train my genin when you couldn't even train yours properly. Guy said, glaring at Kakashi, who said nothing. As you've heard from Guy Sensei, Naruto. I have something to prove. Lee said. I know what you're planning to do, Lee, and I've been waiting for it. It's time we end this. Naruto said. You are right, it is time to end this. Neji, Sasuke and yourself have won. I will not be the only one to lose today. Lee said as his chakra level started to grow. Guy Sensei, please let this work. It is now or never. His chakra becomes visible as he brings his arms down to his sides. To protect and maintain one's own ninja way. Lee and Guy thought. The third gate of life open. Lee said as his body turned red. What's happening? Konkuro asked. He's opened the third gate of life, now he'll attack. Kakashi states. No, he won't, not yet. Guy said, confusing everybody in the stands. The fourth gate. Gate of pain open. Lee said his veins started popping out on his head as the fourth gate opened. He crouched down and took off at speeds Naruto could see but barely. He was breaking the ground, kicking up chunks of earth, shocking everybody, even Naruto. Next thing Naruto knew, he got a stiff kick to his chin, creating a shockwave that almost blew everyone over. He's faster than ever, Kakashi said. Naruto. Hinata exclaimed, worried about her teammate. Where are they? Shino asked. Up there, Shikamaru said, seeing Naruto floating in the air. Lee appeared in front of Naruto and started to kick him all over the fighting area like it was nothing. Although it was hurting, Naruto couldn't help but enjoy himself. He felt that familiar heat rising inside him and it kept building. He wasn't the only one to feel it. Anko and Hiruzen felt it as well. They looked at each other and smirked, knowing what was happening. Kurenai, seeing this, asked what was going on. Don't worry about it, Nai-chan. Let's just say something interesting is about to happen to Naruto that, if I have a feeling, will help him beat Lee even if he is using the 8 inner gates. Anko said. As Lee was kicking Naruto, he noticed him taking the pain very well. You're a strong one, Naruto, take this. He said as he was barely able to make a fist because his muscles were in so much pain. The 5th gate. Gate of closing open. He said. He disappears and punches Naruto in the gut, sending him down to the floor, but wraps him in his wrist tape again and yanks him back up, delivering a viciously hard kick to the chin. Hidden Lotus. Naruto was sent crashing to the ground, however the Naruto that hit the ground went up in a puff of smoke. You almost got me, Lee. If I hadn't created that clone and substituted with it, I would have lost. Naruto said. He got ready and charged at speeds that even the Junin had trouble keeping up with. He was almost as fast as Lee. With the gates open, they met in the middle and started giving punches and kicks that each time connected have off shockwaves. Naruto, using his Sharingan, found an opening and delivered an elbow to Lee's gut and kicked him away, but Lee was using 5 gates, so he didn't stay down for long. They started trading blows again, but this time another heat rose in the arena and a presser was around. Anko and Hiruzen smirked again. It was time for Naruto to let loose. After a while, Naruto was so into the fight that he was starting to dodge all of Lee's attacks and became even faster than him, but his attacks weren't really doing anything, so he started to add chakra to his punches and kicks, and Lee's face scrunching up told Naruto he was feeling the pain. What's going on? What is this heat and pressure that Lee is giving off? I never knew the gates gave a calm and relaxing presence as well. Asuma said. That pressure isn't coming from Lee. It's coming from Naruto, but we don't know what it is. It only happens randomly, I guess, when he is in a good fight that can push him. But going by the look on Guy's face, I'm sure he knows what's going on. Anko said, making everybody look at him, and his face had a shocked expression. No way. He whispered to himself as he saw Naruto's Sharingan turn silver. Naruto started to dodge every single strike that Lee sent at him even sharper and faster, and his regular hits started to do damage to Lee, who was keeping the 5th gate open. Naruto gave a roundhouse kick, sending Lee crashing into the rubble, and chased after him. They both were feeling the strain on their bodies but kept going. Naruto completely took control of the fight, dodging everything and anything with grace that made Hinata jealous. Everybody looked at Guy, who had tears in his eyes. Guy, would you mind explaining what is going on? Hiruzen asked. My father, when he was alive, once told me he was on a mission, but he came across a scroll that was from the times of the Sage of 6 Paths. He read the scroll and it stated a fighting technique that would be considered impossible to learn. He was going to bring it back after the mission was completed, but a group from Kumo was on a mission looking for the scroll since they heard rumors about it existing. They found my father with the scroll, they fought over it, and he barely escaped with the scroll. The Kumo team found him and tried to take the scroll, but he burned it, and before the Kumo shinobi could attack, his backup arrived. He told me this fighting style was so difficult that the sage himself said he couldn't do it. It's a technique that allows your body to attack and dodge on its own, but to do that your mind must be completely empty and just let your body take over your motions. He said that it should be easier to dodge without thinking because some people's bodies do that automatically. However, he said attacking will be difficult since everyone thinks about their attacks and if they will work. However, seeing Naruto use it without even knowing is a complete honor, and I'm lucky to be alive to see it happening in front of me. The pressure and heat you feel is from Naruto. He is in a sense in the heat of the battle, and his pressure comes from the amount of power this gives off. However, your body will be in a tremendous amount of pain if you aren't used to using it. The sage stated in the scroll that he doubted the 8 inner gates would be able to defeat somebody who could completely use this technique to the fullest. If Naruto was to ever master this technique, I will personally bow to him as my superior. Guy said passionately, shocking everyone as he has only been passionate about his flames of youth. Although Lee is my student and I care for him like a son and wish him the best, he will not win this fight. He said. So what's it called then, Guy? Anko asked. Ultra Instinct. He says is Lee and Naruto separate. They get ready for one last attack to end this. Naruto gathers a large amount of wind chakra in his right hand and Lee does the same with his chakra from the 5 gates. Hiruzen seeing this takes action and yells. I don't care who or or what village you are from, if you can use the mud wall jutsu, do it now and use as much chakra you can. If they clash they crash, they will bring this building down on top of us. Every Junin and Shino did the jutsu while Gaara sent out a huge wall of sand getting in between the walls. Naruto and Lee rush forward and let loose their chakra attacks. Lee sent his chakra forward and Naruto said his jutsu. Wind style. Pressurized fist. Naruto thrusted his fist forward sending the air chakra in the shape of a fist at Lee and Lee sent his build-up chakra at Naruto. The result of the attacks was the mud walls and sand were destroyed in the explosion. Everyone was sent flying back from the shockwave but the stadium remained intact. Everyone stood waiting for the smoke to clear after 5 minutes. The smoke cleared and showed Naruto standing barely with his Sharingan activated and Lee was stuck in a wall unconscious. The Hokage nodded to Hayate. Winner Naruto Uchiha. Naruto barely looked up before his body locked up on him and he fell to the ground face first. Kurenai and Guy rushed to the arena to grab their students and both had proud smiles on their faces. They took them to the medic area to get checked over and Kurenai returned but Guy stayed behind. He couldn't help but be happy as tears fell from his eyes at the 2 boys, no men in front of him. That was the best taijutsu fight he has ever seen. Okay, can everybody who won their match and Gaara come down to what remains of the fighting area? You need to pick numbers to see who you are fighting in the finals. Anko said everybody picked a number and showed it to Anko. Kakashi and Kurenai had to pick for Naruto and Sasuke. Okay, so the fights are based on the numbers you drew. Look at the board and you will see your name and your opponent. Anko said everyone looked at the board. Match 1 Neji vs Naruto. Everyone felt bad for Neji. Match 2 Sasuke vs Gaara. Match 3 Kankuro vs Shino. Match 4 Shikamaru vs Dosu. Match 5 Temari vs winner of match 4. Those are the matches for the final round. You have 1 month to prepare. Hiruzen said. Why a month? Asked Sakura from the balcony. Well, we can't do it next week clearly because of the stadium's condition thanks to the last fight. Plus the judges will be coming in. It's not just me, it will be the Kazekage, the Fire Daimyo and a council of shinobi from both Suna and the Leaf. Now, he was interrupted by Naruto limping into the area with a crutch. Hokage-sama, I need to talk to you and bring the Sand Genin and Junin sensei. He said in a serious voice. The Hokage nodded. Now you all have a month to train and get prepared for your matches next month. You're dismissed, however, Sand Ninja, please follow me. He said. He got a nod from the 3 Genin and Junin. Shino discreetly put a big on the Hokage but a glare from Naruto with his Sharingan active made him call it back. Naruto led them to a separate room and put up a privacy barrier. Okay Naruto, what is it that you need? Hiruzen asked seriously. Snake in the grass. Was all Naruto said. He got a nod from the Hokage to continue. Orochimaru is planning an invasion with Sand during the final round. He said, making the Junin and 2 Genin nervous. Gaara just stood there. How do you know this, Naruto? This is a serious accusation. Hiruzen said, getting 3 nods from Kankuro, Temari and Baki. That would be because of me. Midnight said, walking out of the shadows. Naruto, why is there a 4-tailed fox here? Hiruzen ASED. This is Midnight, one of the spy foxes I said I would use to spy on Kabuto. He got a nod from Hiruzen, who knew about the contract but not Kyuubi being the boss. Okay, go ahead and explain, Midnight. Hiruzen said. As Naruto said, he summoned me to spy on a Kabuto guy who smelled like snakes. We the foxes hate snakes and toads. Midnight said. Well, there goes Jiraiya giving him the toad contract. Hiruzen thought. Anyway, I was spying on him since the first day of the Chunin exams and he met up with this guy named Orochimaru. He met up with him every day until he fought Naruto. Good job by the way. They were talking about an invasion during the Chunin exams finals with Sun's aiding sound. However, I'm sorry to say this but the Cage is dead. Orochimaru has been acting as him for a couple of weeks now. He killed him on his way back from a meeting with the Wind Daimyo because he refused to attack the Leaf despite the Wind Daimyo taking missions away from them. The key to the invasion is Gaara. He plans on you releasing the One-Tails during your match. A sleeping genjutsu will be casted by Kabuto starting the invasion. He will be disguised as an Anbu. That's everything I know. Midnight finished. Thanks Midnight, you've done enough. This is for you. Naruto unseals a pile of meat which Midnight drools over. Naruto sends him back home. Now about the invasion and Suna's involvement. Hiruzen said, scaring the sand ninja, even Gaara. We had no idea it was Orochimaru, we were just following orders. Baki quickly said. Temari and Kankuro agreed. Don't worry, I'm not going to blame you. However, I want you to participate in the invasion, act like you are still attacking us, but when the invasion starts you will attack the Sound Ninja. I will deal with Orochimaru myself. It's time I put an end to my student for good. Does Orochimaru leave Sound Ninja in the Sand Village? Baki shakes his head no. Okay, good. When the Cage leaves for a diplomatic mission, gather the council and all ninja and tell them about Orochimaru and tell them the plan. Hiruzen said. Okay, will do. However, we still have two problems. Sand will need a cage after all this is over with, and we need to do something about Gaara. He can't fall asleep or the One-Tail will escape. Temari said. Well, I can't tell who will become Cage, so Baki will probably become the temporary Cage or the council will handle everything until someone is chosen. As for Gaara, I can get my seal master to fix his seal, which seems to be the problem. Hiruzen said. Great, how long until the seal master can do it? Kankuro asked. I don't know, ask him yourself. He said, pointing at Naruto, who actually stopped paying attention. He came to and everybody was looking at him. You say something. Hiruzen took a deep breath to calm himself down. Can you fix Gaara's seal? Baki asked. I already did. He pointed at Gaara, who was snoring face down on the floor. When did you do it? Temari asked. When we fought in the room at the Chunin exams. You never noticed how calm he's been the past few days. I wonder why he chose now to sleep though. Naruto said. All right, is everything in order? Hiruzen asked and got 3 nods and a snore. Okay, you all have one month to get ready, good luck. They all leave Naruto and Hiruzen head to his office. Naruto lays down on the couch to relax and let his healing abilities get to work. After about 30 minutes of him and Hiruzen talking, a presence has been outside his window for 15 minutes. Are you waiting for an invitation or are you going to stay out there all day? Naruto spoke and in came an old man with long white spiky hair with 2 bangs framing his face with red lines coming from his eyes, wearing a green kimono short shirt and matching pants. He wore wooden sandals and a red haori with a headband with the kanji for oil on it. So who are you? The man starts dancing and Naruto stops paying attention. The man finished dancing while looking at Naruto, who was of course not paying attention. What? He asked. The man fell off his toad and Hiruzen could only sigh at this. Naruto, this is my student Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin. He has agreed to be your teacher for the next month. Hiruzen said and Jiraiya nodded. Why do you want to train me? Naruto asked. Jiraiya looked at Hiruzen and nodded. There is a group of S-rank criminals called the Akatsuki and they are hunting down Jinchuriki for the tailed beasts inside of you. They plan on extracting them. For what I don't know. I do know if the extraction process is complete you will die. He said. What are you going to train me in? Naruto asked. I'm going to teach you how to control the Kyuubi chakra and use it properly. Jiraiya said with a proud smile on his face. Have you ever trained a Jinchuriki on using tailed beast chakra? Naruto asked. Well, no, but it can't be that hard. You just draw out as much as possible and then try to control it, he said like it's the most obvious thing ever. You're a idiot. Let me get this straight. I have a group of S-rank criminals after the tailed beasts chasing me. Jiraiya nods. You want to train me using its chakra to use against them? He nods again. You've never trained a Jinchuriki in using tailed beast chakra and your solution is to pull as much as I can handle. Another nod. Has it ever occurred to you that since they are hunting tailed beasts down that they know how to counter it? A shrug came from Jiraiya. I'll pass this guy as an idiotic moron. I'll see you later, old man. With that, Naruto vanished. He made it to Anko's house to talk to her. He unlocked the door and she was sitting on the couch looking like she was thinking hard. Naruto put a hand on her shoulder, startling her. "What's wrong, Anko?" he asked. "The invasion next month. We can't take on 2 villages at once and I'm afraid I'll lose Iruka," she said. "Oh yeah, you haven't heard yet? Well, I can, since you're won the S-rank mission file," he said, and activated the barrier he put up last time he walked in on her and Iruka on the couch making out. "When did you put that in here?" she asked, confused. "When you and Iruka looked like you were about to have on the couch about 2 weeks ago," he said. She sighed. "We didn't have. Kissing is all we've done. He hasn't even seen the girls yet. I'm afraid he's like the other guys who just want to get in a girl's pants and move on," she said. "You do know he is pure like you, right?" he said, getting a shocked look from her. "Really? Yeah. I mean, he said he has been in Anbu since you went missing and you've been back in the village for a while, and he just 5 years ago and has done nothing but work at the academy. Even when the academy was closed, he was there. I think he is just as nervous about it as you are. You should talk to him," he said. Then he proceeded to tell her about the invasion plan and what's going to happen. "Okay, Anko. One more thing. Have you ever thought about getting a different summoning contract?" he asked. "Yeah, I have. But nobody wants me because I am sided with the snakes." "Why?" she asks. "Because on top of my fox contract, I have the dragon contract, and they said they would take you on as a summoner. However, you would have to cancel the snake contract, lose the snake pendant, and forget snake jutsus. However, they will allow you to keep the taijutsu style since it fits you perfectly," he said. "Are you serious?" "Yes. We would just need Inoichi to completely wipe out the knowledge of snake jutsus from your brain and you cancel that contract," he said. She goes through hand signs. Summoning jutsu. Out comes a snake as tall as Naruto. "Yes, Anko, how may I help you?" the snake asked. "I want you to remove my name from the snake contract," she said. The snake stared at her for a while until the snake contract appeared and opened up. The snake spits venom on Anko's name and it burns away. The snake vanishes in a puff of smoke. Anko takes off the snake pendant and burns it with a small fire jutsu. "Okay, we need to go see Inoichi," she said, and grabbed him and disappeared to the T&I apartment and went to Inoichi's office and asked him to get rid of her knowledge of snake jutsus. He asked no questions and 10 minutes later he was done. Naruto took them to the training ground and summoned our favorite 500-foot-tall dragon. "Hey Naruto, is this the one?" Naruto nodded and the summoning contract appeared. "Sign it, Anko." Naruto said. She nodded and Naruto told her the hand signs for it and told her to summon her familiar. She went through the Han signs. Summoning jutsu. A small dragon appeared with 4 wings that look like an X when they spread out, with 2 horns that go across its head, almost looking like eyebrows, with fins on each side of its head. It looks up at Anko with eyes that have yellow iris and black oval-shaped pupils. It tilts its head at her in a confused way. "Ah, it's so cute," she said as she picked up the dragon and cuddled it to her face. "Interesting dragon. This one will be a wind user once it grows. However, you have to name it. After you name it, that will complete your bond. You can't summon her until she is ready to start training, so in about 6 months is when you can train your familiar," Bob said before he disappeared along with Anko's familiar. "Wait, I forgot to ask him for his name and give my familiar a name," Anko said. "Well, summon him back so you can ask him," he said. Summoning jutsu. "I'm back again. What do you need, Anko?" Bob asked. "I need to give my familiar her name and I don't know your name yet," she said. "Oh, of course, let me bring her to you." He leaves and returns 30 seconds later with Anko's familiar. "Okay. Now I think I'll call you Rose," Anko said to her familiar, who clapped her wings, creating a tiny gust of wind. "Well, I guess she will be a wind type when she gets older and starts to train. You will be able to summon her again in 6 months after she grows some more, like Naruto, who cannot summon his familiar. Now, as I've told Naruto, you can summon any other dragon besides the boss and elder. They will determine when you are ready and worthy to summon them. I will tell you now that both of you are close. Now for name, I am the almighty dragon, wielder of green flames and strongest battle dragon outside of the boss dragon and elder. You, Anko, may call me Bob," he said proudly, once again puffing his chest out. Anko just stared at him and looked at Naruto for confirmation. He nodded and she wanted to laugh, but she could tell Bob was really proud of his name, so she let it go. Now, if that is all, we shall be off. They nodded and he disappeared with Rose, who didn't want to leave yet. All right, Naru-chan, what will you be doing for the next month? Have you found a teacher yet? Anko asked. The idiot Jiraiya wanted to teach me. He was going to train me in something he didn't understand or know how it works. He said. What do you mean by that? She asked, and he explained the whole Akatsuki situation and Jiraiya's brilliant ideas to use the Kyuubi chakra against them. Wow, I know he is an idiot, but I didn't think it was that much. By the way, he is a major pervert who always peeks on women in the bathhouses. If you turn out like him, I will castrate you. Do you understand me? She asked with a dangerous voice. He nodded frantically, not trusting his own words. Good, now I'm off to prepare for next month. I might even get laid tonight, so don't come over. She said and disappeared in a swirl of fire. I didn't need to know that last part. But time to train. With that, he started working on his chakra control because he had an idea for a jutsu he wanted to make. He did the tree walking exercise by sticking leaves to his body and water walking while balancing a senbon on each of his fingers. He did this for 5 hours straight and decided to call it a day. He went home and went to sleep. Next morning, Naruto woke up and went to the store, but he couldn't get what he was looking for. They were sold out. He decided to go and see the old man. He has a grandson, so he might have what he needs. He shunshined to the Hokage office and saw the same guy from yesterday. Hey old man. Hey pervy sage. At the name pervy sage, Jiraiya's jaw hit the ground and Hiruzen started laughing. Don't call me that. Jiraiya yelled. Yeah, whatever. Old man, I need some water balloons and rubber balls. Do you have any? He asked and was met by silence until Jiraiya spoke up. Why do you need those? He asked, thinking he may know what Naruto has planned. I have an idea for a jutsu I wanted to create, but I need those for shape manipulation, power and rotation. I'm trying to create a ball of pure chakra in my hand for close range attacks. He said. Oh, you mean this? Jiraiya asked and formed a ball of chakra in his hand. Yeah, like that, but how do you know it? Naruto asked. This was created by the Yondaime kid. It's called the Rasengan. It's an A-rank jutsu that took him 3 years to create since he was starting from scratch. He got the idea of seeing a tailed beast bomb once. It took me a couple months to learn. Outside of me and him, nobody knows it. I can teach it to you if you want. Jiraiya said. Sure, but I have a question for the old man. Naruto said. What would that be, Naruto? Hiruzen asked. Who is my father? Naruto said. The Yondaime. He stated bluntly, shocking Naruto. Why didn't you tell me before? Well, I was waiting for you to ask. The instructions were to not tell you until you were a Chunin or figured you were ready, and given from the damage done to the Chunin exam stadium, you were more than ready. He said, making Naruto scratch the back of his head like his father always did when he was embarrassed. Yeah, good job on that, kid. Now it's time I introduce myself. My name is Jiraiya, yes, but I am also your godfather. I didn't raise you because I figured I would do better keeping outside threats from harming you. I've been keeping an eye on you for the last 13 years. I've only had to stop 50 outside threats to you because somebody told them that there was an Uchiha around that was not being looked over by the clan. I guess Danzo has a hand in that, by we know how good he is at hiding his tracks. Jiraiya said. Okay, that's a reasonable explanation. I already know who my godmother is, so it's okay with me. He said. Who's your godmother then? Jiraiya asked mockingly. Kushina Uzumaki. I know because when the old man gave another scroll that had been left for me, it contained the Uzumaki sealing notes and a letter from her explaining who she was and that there may be another Uzumaki out there somewhere and some may be around my age. She said that when every Uzumaki is born, there is a seal placed on them that is explained to them at the age of 7 but won't be active until they are 8. It's invisible to anybody who hasn't mastered the first 4 levels of Uzumaki sealing. It can be activated by whoever has the Uzumaki sealing notes. Inside of it is a beacon seal that lets you know when an Uzumaki is around, that shows all Uzumaki alive. I activated the seal once and it only showed 2 Uzumaki clan members alive, but it had a third spot on there showing a half or less than half Uzumaki being alive. One was in the Chunin exams during the second part, but I never found who it was. I'm going to try again in a couple of months and then I'll send out the other part of the seal letting them know they can come to Konoha. Alright Naruto, how far along are you in the Uzumaki sealing notes? Jiraiya asked. I just finished level 5 right before the Chunin exams started. He said. Alright, well, Naruto, this is the scroll your father left for you. It can only be opened by your blood. My guess is that this was supposed to be a birthday gift for you since it wasn't a freshly made seal when I found it. Hiruzen said as he handed the scroll to Naruto. He activated the blood seal and a small scroll popped out. He unrolled the paper inside and read it out loud. Happy 15th birthday, Naruto. I know this isn't much of a gift, but I was never really good at those. This is two of my most prized jutsu. The first is the Hiraishin jutsu. It was created by Tobirama Senju, however I made it even better than he made it. The only way you can use this jutsu is if you have mastered all 10 levels of space-time fuinjutsu and have figured out the key to getting it to work. The second is my personal jutsu. It's called the Hiraishin Darai. You must know space-time fuinjutsu for this as well. This jutsu creates a barrier that is capable of transferring anything to a marked location. I guess if you use enough chakra you can teleport a tailed beast bomb, but I don't want to find out if you can. Below I have left you 50 spare tri-prong kunai for both of these jutsus. Now I have one more technique called the Rasengan, but I'll teach you that myself. Enjoy your day. Love, Dad. To say Naruto was shocked was an understatement. He was crying because he was supposed to get this gift from his dad next year. Wow, so I guess Minato was planning on passing his legacy down to you at the age of 15. So how long do you think it should take you to complete these jutsus? Jiraiya asked. Well, I already know space-time fuinjutsu, but even though knowing fuinjutsu is required, these are classified as S-rank ninjutsu, so I'll probably have them done within a couple of months. Probably sooner. I just need to figure out the secret to them and everything else will be somewhat difficult. Naruto responded. Alright, let's head to the Hokage's training ground to begin training. Jiraiya responded. Naruto disappeared in a swirl of blue fire. Why is his fire blue? He asked his teacher. I don't know, it's always been like that. His lightning is red as well. He said, shocking Jiraiya, who left in a swirl of leaves. Jiraiya arrived at the training ground seeing Naruto already inside the barrier waiting for him. How'd you get in the barrier? I've been training here since I was 6. We wanted to keep my Sharingan training a secret. He said. Who taught you? Before the academy, I mean. I know it wasn't Kakashi, having heard how he is towards you. Jiraiya asked. Shisui Uchiha trained me until I was 8 before he died. Everything else was self-taught. Even after I got a Junin sensei, I still taught myself, especially when I was on Team 7. With Kurenai, she couldn't teach me much except chakra control, but she would spar with me to try and fix any holes I had in my taijutsu as best as she could. Naruto said. Okay, so how strong are you exactly? Jiraiya asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I know I'm stronger than Kakashi. He said, shocking Jiraiya. Even though Kakashi slacked off in his training, he was still not to be taken lightly. Okay, then are you healed up 100%? He got a nod from Naruto. Okay, let's spar before we begin the Rasengan. They get into their respective stances and Naruto charged at Jiraiya and Jiraiya blocked the punch but winced from the power behind it. They spared for an hour before Jiraiya called for a stop. Okay, you are definitely low Sannin level, however you are not strong enough to take on even the lower ranked members of the Akatsuki. He said. The only member I know is Itachi because Orochimaru was a part, but he tried to take over Itachi's body for the Sharingan but lost and barely escaped. It was only because Orochimaru's helper Kabuto showed up. You can maybe go toe-to-toe with Itachi in taijutsu because of your Sharingan, but without it you would lose to him. Also watch out for his Mangekyo, it's impossible to counter it. He said seriously. I can counter his Mangekyo with my own. Naruto said, activating his Mangekyo Sharingan. When? As all Jiraiya asked. Shisui. Was the response, and he understood. One thing about Orochimaru, he can't keep his mouth shut, and through a lot of research he accidentally found out how to awaken the Mangekyo. But what Orochimaru didn't know was how to counter the blindness. Okay, let's begin with the first step of the Rasengan. The first step is you must pop the balloon with only your chakra. I'll demonstrate for you, he said as he unseals some balloons filled with water. He held one in his hand and began to channel chakra into the balloon, making it bubble all over before popping. Once you can do that in 1 second, we can move on to the next stage. Naruto grabbed the rest of the water balloons and got to work. It took him 6 hours to get the balloon to pop. He had a lot of problems with it. He made it flat like a disc and somehow made it stand up straight like a Senbon that resulted in a sweat drop from both him and Jiraiya, who couldn't even figure out how he did that. He eventually got it, but it took him 5 seconds to pop it. He grabbed another water balloon. He had about 30 left out of the 100 that he originally had. After another 5 hours he was able to get the balloon to pop. However, tomorrow he would try to get it to pop in a split second since Jiraiya had given him tomorrow off. He left the training ground and went to Ichiraku's and ate some food and talked with Ayame. He found out she had gotten offered a marriage contract from a noble family and declined it. She always said she wanted to get married out of love and not through some contract. She was now seeing a civilian boy she met a few months ago. Naruto of course wanted to intimidate him but only got hit by her ladle that appeared out of nowhere. He went home and went to sleep. He woke up the next day and decided to just stay home, but he went to the store to buy some balloons. Now he was practicing to pop it in a second when someone knocked on his door. He opened it and it was Gaara. They just stood there staring at each other until Naruto spoke. "Can I help you?" "Yes, Temari did something and I don't know how to respond to it." Gaara said. "What did she do?" Naruto asked. "Well, I woke up and Temari had me in a soft stranglehold. I didn't know what to do, so I trapped her to the wall with sand and came here." Gaara explained. Naruto's sweat dropped at that last part. "That's called a hug, Gaara. People usually give them out if they are happy or sad. In Temari's case, she's happy to have her brother back and she was happy that you were finally able to sleep. You've been asleep since the end of the exhibition matches and then slept the entire next day." Gaara nodded at this explanation and just, "You're welcome," he said and got to work on popping the balloon instantly. 3 hours later he finally got it to pop instantly. He worked on his fuinjutsu for the rest of the day and finished the seal to get rid of the caged bird seal since he couldn't use the same seal he used for Anko's curse mark due to the caged bird seal being so close to the brain. He needed something specifically for the caged bird seal. He suddenly found what he was looking for and got to work. Next day he met Jiraiya, who was shocked that Naruto could pop the balloon instantly. So they got to work on popping the rubber ball that took Naruto all day. All he kept getting was little holes in the ball. He could see the chakra making the ball bubble like the balloon did, but he didn't understand what he was doing wrong. That's when it hit him. He couldn't focus the power in his hand, so he drew the Uzumaki spiral in his hand to make him focus on adding power. It took him 2 days to get it down. Actually, it took him the next day, but he took an extra day to pop the ball instantly. Now he was working on adding the first 2 steps together, but compressing it he couldn't pop the balloon, and when this was done Jiraiya showed him the end result. The Rasengan should grind into whatever it hits. This was the easiest stage for Naruto and he got in a couple of hours, making Jiraiya pout. "Okay, I have one last thing to give you. Since you completed the Rasengan, I want to give you the Toad contract." Jiraiya said. "Sorry pervy sage, but I can't. My summons hate toads and won't allow me to sign the contract." Naruto said. "What summons do you have?" Jiraiya said, ignoring the name calling. "The fox contract." Naruto said. "Shit, it would be the foxes. Well, the main reason I needed to give you the toad contract is because they have the key to your seal and you can't get it unless you sign the contract." Jiraiya stated. "Well, how about you summon the toad that has the key and I can look at it and make my own key?" Naruto told him. "That should work." He goes through the hand signs. Summoning jutsu. A black and orange toad appeared out of the smoke. "Garotora, I need you to show Naruto the key to the seal. He can't sign the contract because he signed the fox contract." Jiraiya said. "Are you sure, Jiraiya? He's just a kid." Garotora responded. "Yeah, I'm sure. He just wants to see it so he can make his own. He's better than me at making seals, so I believe he can do it." Jiraiya said. "Alright if you say so, but after this you should summon Gamabunta and tell him." Garotora says, and he stretches his body and a scroll-like section of his body unravels showing the key. Naruto activates his Sharingan, memorizing everything before deactivating it. Gyoutora disappears, but before they can do anything a large toad appears. "Jiraiya!" The toad yelled. "Yes, Bunta." Jiraiya said. "Where is the boy? I want to talk to him." Gamabunta said. "I'm right here." Naruto said, standing next to Jiraiya. "Okay, I understand you can't have the toad contract and that is fine. Jiraiya messed up by not offering you the toad contract earlier. I have a request. If anything were to happen to Jiraiya, I would like you to hold on to the contract and find a new summoner. This is an odd request, I understand, but that is all I ask. Can you do that for me? Gamabunta asked. Naruto thought about it for about 5 minutes. Yes, I can do that. How will you know where I am to get me the contract? Naruto asked. If anything happens, the elder toad Fukusaku will bring the contract to the Hokage and explain the situation. Gamabunta said before disappearing. Alright, that's the only 2 things I could teach you, everything else is toad related. I'll be in and out of the village the next few weeks setting up the counter-attack. I'll be around to spar with you sometimes. After that, Jiraiya went up in a cloud of smoke. Naruto sat down on the training ground and made a Rasengan in both hands. He tried to increase the size of the Rasengan, but after it got a certain size, the outside shell would destabilize and the Rasengan would explode. However, that also gave him another idea to create multiple Rasengans at once and have them inside of a layer of chakra. With that, he began to work on making the Rasengan bigger first before moving on to his next idea he had. Chunin exam finals. The month everybody had to train was over with. And all the nobles from different villages were in, even the fire daimyo who came only to see Naruto, who his wife said he should look at. Villagers from the Leaf and shinobi from the Leaf and Sand village were packed in the stands. The villagers were unaware of the impending invasion, but the Hokage had to take a risk. He has Anbu in the stands ready to take the civilians to the bunkers and some Junin in the streets ready to escort those civilians not in the Chunin exam stadium to the bunker where Anko and Iruka will be standing guard. All of the contestants were there except Dosu. Kakashi was there with Sasuke on time due to him knowing about the invasion, and he wanted to see if he could learn anything from Naruto. What Kakashi didn't know was that Naruto made it impossible for a Sharingan user to copy his jutsus. All of them required less than 5 hand signs and the Sharingan needs to see all of them. He saw Sasuke staring at Naruto with his Naoto Tomo Sharingan trying to intimidate him. Naruto just looked at him and activated his own Sharingan, shocking Sasuke because it's already matured. Up in the cage's booth, the Case Cage has just arrived. Greetings, Case Cage Dono. I hope your travels were pleasant. Hiruzen asked. They were quite well, except for the usual bandits trying to make a quick Ryo. Although I am thankful that the exams are being held in Konoha, due to your age I don't know if you can handle the travels or the heat. Responded the Case Cage. Hiruzen just laughed at this, playing along. Oh, don't count me out just yet. I may be old, but there is still a lot of life left in these bones. He said. The Case Cage only nodded. I'm looking forward to these matches, especially the Uchiha Genin. I've heard that they are both quite interesting. Although I do not think they will be able to beat my son. The Case Cage said. Now then, I believe it is time to get things started. Hiruzen said, standing and began speaking to the crowd, getting their attention. Thank you all for coming to the Hidden Leaf Village for the Chunin exam selections this year. We have come to the final competition between 8 candidates who made it through the preliminaries. We ask that no one leaves until all the matches have finished. Now everyone enjoy. Genma, I hand everything else over to you now. Hiruzen said. You said 8 candidates, aren't you missing one? The Case Cage asked. Yes, it appears Dosu of the Sound has not been found. He has by rule forfeited. Hiruzen responded. A Junin with his headband on covering his entire head chewing on a Senbon with the basic Junin outfit on appears. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Now, as you all know, Dosu is not here, so now the third match will be between Temari and Shikamaru, while the fourth match will now be Gaara vs Sasuke Uchiha. Now listen up, the terrain is different now thanks to an incident during the preliminary matches. He said, giving a pointed look at Naruto, who was scratching the back of his head. The rules are still the same. The match goes on until your opponent is either unable to continue or forfeits the match. Now the first match is between Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uchiha. Everyone else go up to the waiting area. The other 6 candidates went up to the waiting area. In the stands. Watch closely, Hanabi. You are about to witness something amazing during this match. Hiyashi said. What is it, father? Hanabi asked. Just watch and you'll see. He responded. Getting confused looks from Hanabi and Hinata. Hiyashi was also on edge. All the clan heads knew about the upcoming invasion. He didn't want his daughters to be there, but Naruto told him he has clones hanged into bugs with enough chakra to last for a couple of hours, so they will be sent up with the nobles and daimyo and other important guests inside of a barrier that will keep everyone in and nothing can get through it. His clones will be powering the barrier. Wow, the Hyuga in the first match. I know, and he is going up against the runt of the Uchiha clan. My money is on the Hyuga. Yeah, he doesn't stand a chance. If this was Sasuke, he would wipe the floor with him. I heard the runt was responsible for them having to rebuild the fighting area. Yeah, I heard that too. He must have let the fox out to play. Those were the words said by a couple of civilians who still did not like Naruto either for containing the fox or being the son of Kiyomi Uchiha. However, the two chunin close by the Eternal Gate guards Azumo and Katetsu had other thoughts. I don't see a way how this Hyuga wins. You heard how Naruto took out 3 opponents in the preliminaries. Azumo said. Yeah, I know, I even heard one of them was a Junin level shinobi. My money is on Naruto to win the entire thing. Katetsu said. Fighting stage. Neji and Naruto stand face to face waiting for the signal to start. You got something to say? You look a little tense. Neji said arrogantly. Yeah, I do. You're about to get the kicking of a lifetime. I'm only tense for a completely different reason. Naruto responds. They settle into their stances and get ready to fight, and Neji activates his Byakugan. I feel bad for Neji. Genma and the other Junin thought. Begin. Was all Genma said before hopping away. Neji opened his mouth to say something but was sent flying into the wall courtesy of a kick from Naruto that he didn't see coming even with his Byakugan active. He climbed out of the wall and rushed Naruto, attacking him with palm strikes that Naruto would either block or dodge. After no luck of Neji hitting Naruto, he jumped back to think of his game plan. The people in the crowd were cheering at the action they were seeing. All the judges were impressed so far, but it was only the beginning. How is he blocking and dodging my palm strikes? I know I must have hit him at least a couple of times. Neji thought while looking at Naruto, who just stood there calmly. Why do you hate Hinata, Neji? Is it because she's from the main branch while you are a side branch member? Or is it because of something else? Naruto asked. If you must know, it's because of this. He takes his headband off and unwraps his head and reveals the caged bird seal. This seal was branded on me as a child. I was 4 years old when the elders of my clan decided to brand me with this seal. On that same day, after many years and war, a peace treaty was going to happen between the land of fire and the land of lightning. They sent a head Junin to join the celebration and sign the treaty. Everyone was there celebrating, every genin and Junin in the village. Only one clan was absent, the Hyuga clan. Because this day was when the heir to the main house was turning 3. Her father, Lord Hiashi Hyuga, is sitting up there right next to her. Him and my father were twins, yet he was born first, so he is the head of the family, the firstborn. While my father, his brother, was banished to a lesser branch family. This seal, I can assure you, is not for decoration. This seal acts as a punishment as well. If any Hyuga from the main branch are to get out of line, then a main branch member can activate the seal, causing unimaginable amounts of pain to whoever they chose, nearly killing them. However, on that same night, the Junin from Kumo snuck into the Hyuga compound and kidnapped Lady Hinata while she was asleep. A servant of the Hyuga went to check on her and discovered she was missing and immediately told her father. Lord Hiashi found the Junin with Lady Hinata over his shoulder trying to escape, but before he could, he was killed by Lord Hiashi. Then it was later discovered that it was a plot. The treaty was a fake, all so they could get their hands on the Byakugan. Kumo found out, and of course they denied this and demanded the head of the leader of the Hyuga clan for compensation. However, what they got in return was my father, since the caged bird seal can destroy the Hyuga bloodline and any secrets the body may hold. The head of the Hyuga was too scared to give himself up, so he sacrificed his own brother, leaving a 4-year-old boy with no father. That is why I hate the main branch. It is Hinata's fault my father is dead. Neji said. Wow, nice story, too bad it's full of shit. Let me get this straight. Hinata was kidnapped by a Kumo Junin at the age of 3 and you blame her for the death of your father. Neji nodded his head. You're an idiot. You know that. How is Hinata, 3-year-old with barely any training, supposed to stop a Junin who has fought plenty of battles and probably in a war? You said Kumo wanted the Byakugan, so they requested the head of the main branch. They must have known about the caged bird seal, so they specifically asked for a member without it. The only way to make Kumo happy was to give them Hiashi, or in this case his brother, who, if I'm right, like every other branch member, would do anything to be free of the curse mark placed on you. I'm sure he willingly did this on his own, but you need to talk to your uncle and the elders. Now, since that is cleared up, I believe I owe you an whooping for trying to kill my teammate earlier in the preliminaries. Naruto said and activated his Sharingan, shocking those who didn't know he had it. In the stands. He already has a mature Sharingan. How? I know not even Sasuke has one yet. It must be the fox's influence. Making him stronger so the fox can be released. Those were of course the civilians talking about Naruto. Wow, no matter how many times I see it, I still can't believe he has the Sharingan at that level and he just turned 13. Asuma said. Yeah, I know, it makes you wonder how long he's had it. Said a random Junin sitting close by. I know from the blue fire and red lightning and being good at seals. What can't he do? Said Genma, who was up with them. He didn't know if this fight would be like the last one Naruto had. Kurenai, do you know when he unlocked the Sharingan? I know who trained him from the jutsu he used in the preliminaries. Asuma said. No, I don't. Only Anko knows when he unlocked it and matured it. However, I have a feeling he will reveal it. She answered. With the nobles and judges. A Sharingan matured at 13, that is unheard of. Only recent memory is Itachi, who had his matured before he was 13. Said one judge. Yeah, I know, I'm with everyone else wondering when he unlocked it. Said another. Given the way he performed in the first round and the skills he's shown, I think we have our first Chunin, maybe even special Junin. What do you think? Another asked. He got nods of agreement from the other judges. Daddy, I want him to be my husband. Can you make it happen? Asked the daughter of one of the nobles in the land of fire. Of course, sweetie, I'll send the marriage contract once the exams are over and we get back home. That boy will be a gold mine to our family business. Her father said. The other nobles looked at them in disgust. Meanwhile, the fire daimyo was keeping a close eye on him. He piqued his interest since his wife told him about the boy. Naruto Uchiha, huh? You aren't like the usual Uchiha, especially the other one in the village. I've got my eye on you. Depending on how you do, you just may receive an invitation to the Guardian 12. He thought. Fighting stage. Neji activated his Byakugan and spoke. It doesn't matter that you have the Sharingan, the Uchiha clan has always been second best in everything compared to the Hyuga. You are beneath me, he said. Do not lump me in with the Uchiha clan. I may have their bloodline, but I am not a part of that clan. I don't even wear the Uchiha crest. That clan was a disgrace, and it was only fitting that they get wiped out by one of their own members. Naruto said. Sasuke was being held back by Kakashi. He wanted to go down there and fight Naruto. Like I said, it does not matter anyway. Besides, Neji gets into a stance that makes Hiashi and the Hyuga elders gasp. You are within my field of divination, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Neji stated. However, Naruto already activated his jutsu, so the attacks went right through him. 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. However, every single one of them didn't even touch Naruto. That's impossible. How did you manage to evade that? Neji asked. I used my teacher's jutsu that he was famous for, and no, I am not talking about that loser of a Junin Kakashi Hatake. No, I am talking about my first sensei who trained me for 2 years before the academy. Shisui Uchiha, or as other people like to call him, Shisui the Teleporter. He got many gasps from everyone, even the Kage couldn't hold his back, making Hiruzen look at him from the corner of his eye. Yes, I was trained by Shisui after unlocking my Sharingan at the age of 6 during a beating I got from these villagers who blamed me for something I had no control over. So over the course of 2 years I trained my off harder than anybody. I matured my Sharingan during a jog around the village forest when I was 7 by a group of Rouge Chunin. I was saved by Shisui. After that he trained me even harder. I hid my Sharingan from everybody up until the preliminaries. Only a few people knew about my Sharingan. I hid it because I was ashamed to have the same blood as that idiotic clan. However, Hinata told me I shouldn't hide my heritage, and if I'm not proud to be an Uchiha, then at least be proud of who my mother is. I've become a seal master by Konoha standards before I even graduated from the academy. I was already on par with Kakashi by the time I was 12, and I have surely surpassed him. As you all witnessed, I can go toe to toe with 5 of the 8 inner gates using taijutsu only. Now you've had your fun, it's my turn. Naruto said he took out a shuriken and threw them at Neji. Shuriken Shadow Clone. The one shuriken turned into 20 heading towards Neji at a fast pace. Rotation. Neji spun around creating a dome of rotating chakra knocking away the shuriken. So that's the Hyuga ultimate defense. I can't wait to break it. I've already found 2 weaknesses in the jutsu. He said. Oh yeah, and what's that? This is called the ultimate defense for a reason. Neji said. Then Naruto suddenly appeared in front of Neji, shocking him. The first weakness is you must rotate your body with your arm out for momentum. So if I'm in close, it's useless. Naruto said. Neji then found a knee in his stomach and coughed up blood. Naruto then proceeded to give him the same beating he gave Lee. He made Neji look like his personal punching bag. The beating was so brutal Hinata and Hanabi have tears falling down their faces. Even though Neji was cold towards the main family, they still loved him like a brother, so seeing this made them cry. Naruto finished beating Neji with a strong uppercut, lifting him off his feet and delivering him a roundhouse kick to his gut. Neji hit the ground and coughed up blood. He stood after laying there for 10 seconds, although barely. I'm surprised you still can stand, but given your current chakra levels, I'd say you have enough left for 1 rotation. How about I show you the second weakness to that ultimate defense? He started to run at Neji, holding his hand out, and swirling noise was heard, shocking many of the older shinobi. They knew that jutsu and who made it. The second weakness in the rotation is the way the chakra moves, which means. He said. Rasengan. Rotation. An explosion happened. Smoke and dust was clouding the fighting area, but a gust of wind from inside the smoke cleared it away, showing Neji laid down on his back, unable to move, and Naruto staring down at him. All of the Hyuga that were in the stands were shocked that the ultimate defense of the Hyuga clan was easily picked apart. As I was saying, your rotation only spins chakra in one direction. If you go up against an attack that spins in the opposite direction or multiple directions, it gets cancelled out and you lose. Hiyashi-sama, I've finished the 2 projects. Shall I show you the results? Naruto asked. Hiyashi, knowing what he was talking about, stood up. Yes, you can, Naruto. I thank you for this, and the Hyuga will forever be in your debt. He said with a smile, shocking everyone. What could be so important that the Hyuga head will smile? Hiyashi, what is he talking about? Asked one of the elders of the Hyuga clan. Yeah, father, what is he doing? Hinata asked. Just watch. As all they got in a response. Naruto nodded and went through 50 hand signs and touched Neji's forehead. Cursed seal removal. Seal evaporation. A slight burning sensation is all Neji felt, that lasted for about 30 seconds. Naruto went through 20 hand signs and touched Neji on the side of his head by the temple. Bloodline Destroyer Seal. A seal appeared on Neji's temple before disappearing. Naruto pulled Neji up to his feet and everybody was in shock. What did you do to me? Neji asked weakly. Naruto put a medical seal on Neji, who immediately felt the effects of it, simply told him. I made you a free bird. As well as all the branch members. He pulled out a kunai and showed Neji his reflection. Neji was in shock, but before he could say anything he passed out. What, Hiyashi, we will not stand for this. The caged bird seal was always a part of our family tradition. Yelled the elders. Well, it's a good thing I don't care, as the Hokage is my witness. The Hyuga shall remove the caged bird seal from all branch members, and we will all have this new seal put on us. It is time the Hyuga became whole and not separate families. I would rather we not have a situation like the Uchiha clan did. We will remove all seals after the Chunin exams are finalized. He said proudly. The elders were not happy about this. As this was going on, Orochimaru decided to start the invasion early and signaled Kabuto, who was building up chakra, to begin the genjutsu to start the invasion. But Naruto felt the build-up of chakra. We wish your daughter was kidnapped as a child. She was useless to us, so we set up the kidnapping of her with Kumo Junin. Everything was ruined. This is not how things should be. We were close to running the Hyuga our way with you under our thumb, said the Hyuga elder, with the other nodding in agreement. Now this was a shock to Hinata and Hiyashi, because the elder was Hiyashi's father. Now what the elders didn't know was that Naruto gave Hiyashi a truth seal to put on them and told him to activate it after he removed the curse seal. Boy, do you have any idea of what you've won to the Hyuga clan? What do you have to say for yourself? The other elder asked. Well, 2 things actually. 1. Thank you for exposing yourselves as traitors. You both are going to be killed. No sooner than he said that, Hiyashi struck them both in the hearts, instantly killing them and burned the bodies. Second is the will of fire will always burn even through the darkest of times. This was the signal that the invasion was about to begin, and right after that feathers started to fall and an explosion was heard up in the cage booth. Naruto's clones grabbed Hinata, Hanabi and Neji and took them up to the nobles area and activated the barrier. The Sand and Leaf Anbu got every civilian out of the stadium quickly, and Kurenai and all Junin present released a wave of chakra, releasing anybody from the genjutsu. Sound Ninja appeared and attacked. Giant snake summons appeared, destroying everything in their path, so Naruto decides to summon his foxes. Summoning Jutsu. 5 large battle foxes appeared. Naruto, it's good to see you, how may we help you? One of the foxes asked. My home is being invaded, can you help us out with the snakes? As soon as he said snakes, the foxes took off and started fighting the snake summons. Naruto, you are to head to the bunker, guard the civilians with the rest of the rookies except Sasuke. Kakashi said, showing up near Naruto with Sasuke by his side. Sorry Kakashi, I'm the one who discovered the invasion. My orders are to take out the snake summons and as many sound ninja I can. My orders came directly from the Hokage, so off. He pulls out the Kubikiribocho and charges into the fight. The sound ninja were confused because the sand ninja were supposed to be on their side but didn't dwell on it and began attacking sand ninja as well. All civilians were in the bunker being guarded by Genin, Anko and Iruka, and Anbu brought Sasuke because he was getting in the way during the invasion and almost got himself killed. Anko, you may have some sound ninja on the way, get the Genin ready for an attack and keep the civilians safe. The Anbu said before returning to the fight. All right Genin, listen up, we may or may not have sound ninja coming to the bunker, be on the lookout. They all nodded except Sasuke, who ignored her and walked away. Hokage booth. So Orochimaru, you've come to kill me. Hiruzen said. Kukuku, yes I have, I also want to destroy the hidden leaf, that's why I've allied myself with the sand village. Within a few hours the hidden leaf village will be no more. He said, but was shocked when Hiruzen spoke. It seems you misunderstand then. The sand ninja are not fighting with sound, rather against them. He said. Orochimaru looked over and the sand was indeed fighting against the sound. It's over Orochimaru, you've lost. He said. No, I haven't lost. Sound 4 raised the barrier. As soon as he said that, 4 sound shinobi appeared and a purple barrier rose up around them, cutting off the Anbu that arrived to help. Now let's get started, shall we? Orochimaru went through hand signs. Summoning Jutsu. Impure World Resurrection. 3 coffins appeared with the kanji for first, second and fourth Hyusen, knowing who was in that coffin, threw shuriken at it, causing it to stop rising and go back into the ground. The other coffins finish rising and out steps a man with long black hair and red battle armor and another with gray hairs, red marks on his face and blue battle armor. These were the first and second Hokages, Hashirama and Tobirama Senju. Now let's get started, shall we? Orochimaru says as he shoves a kunai with a tag on the end into Hashirama and Tobirama and they attack. With Naruto. After Naruto finished taking out his sound ninja around him, he looked around and saw the foxes take out the rest of the snake summons before leaving in a cloud of smoke. He saw the sand and sound ninja fighting, but the sound was losing ninja at a fast pace. He was about to head over to the bunker and help, but 10 more sound ninja appeared before him. Naruto Uchiha, you are to come with us. Lord Orochimaru would like you to join his side. One sound ninja said. Sorry, but I'm going to come with you guys, I'm staying in the leaf. He said. Sorry, but you have no choice. All 10 sound shinobi attacked and Naruto activates his Sharingan. He began with taijutsu, blocking and dodging every punch and kick that was thrown his way. He punched one in the throat but had to duck a roundhouse kick from his left. He quickly pulled out a kunai and threw it at another sound shinobi, piercing his heart. He looked up and saw the other 9 charging him. He held up a single hand sign. Fire style. Dragon Rain Jutsu. He breathed out a large amount of blue fire, and once it reached its highest level, dragons made of fire began crashing down, taking out 8 of the remaining sound ninja. The last one managed to get out of the way, but he did get the tail end of the explosion. Naruto starts concentrating lighting chakra into his right hand and summons a hammer of lightning and throws it at the sound shinobi, who was shocked at seeing this and gets hit before he can stand up all the way. Naruto said one final jutsu. Lightning Edge. His hand was covered in red lighting chakra and he ran at the final sound shinobi, stabbing him through the heart, killing him. He stood up slightly out of breath and looked up as a squad of 5 blank masked Anbu appeared. Are you serious? Oh well, let's fight. He pulls out the Kubikiribocho and they attack. He ducks out of the way from a tanto that was aimed at his head. He pumped wind chakra through the Kubikiribocho and swung it behind him in a horizontal slash. Wind style. Air slash. The attack cut 3 of the Anbu in half who weren't fast enough to get out of the way. The remaining 2 Anbu stood in front and behind him. He put his sword on his back and went through 2 hand signs. Water style. Octo Shield Jutsu. He is surrounded by a wall of water with 8 tentacles waving around the top of the water. The 2 Anbu attack and are surprised but don't show it when Naruto moves his hands and the water starts to move and attack. The Anbu tries to dodge the attacking whips of water but one gets caught and a sphere of water surrounds his head and drowns him. The other Anbu, thinking he can attack Naruto from behind, starts to move but is stopped by a tanto going through his chest courtesy of a Naruto clone that appeared behind him. Naruto senses for anybody else and senses only Gaara, Temari and Kankuro behind him. He drops the jutsu and turns to speak but the clone vanishes and he gets the memories. Ayame was stabbed in the stomach by a sound ninja that managed to sneak in the bunker because Sasuke abandoned his post. However, Anko managed to kill the ninja and heal Ayame. He opens his mouth to talk but a sense of death is in the air. He looks at the purple barrier Hiruzen is in and that's where it's coming from. GG. He whispers and takes off toward the barrier. He makes isn't to the barrier and sees Hiruzen with the death god behind him while he is holding onto Orochimaru with a sword through his chest and a monkey who he recognizes as Enma trying to pull it out but can't because it's being controlled by Orochimaru. Naruto is about to break the barrier to try and save him but Hiruzen stops him. No, Naruto, don't. This is my duty as Hokage to sacrifice myself for the greater good of the village. I want you to answer a question for me. Do you remember who the king of the Leaf Village is? He asks. Naruto nods with tears in his eyes. Good, I want you to continue to grow as a shinobi and protect the king of the leaf. Make sure you never lose sight of what's important to you. Enma, I want to leave the monkey contract with Naruto. I want him to give Konohamaru the contract when he becomes a genin. It will be my last and final gift to him. Enma nods at this, sad to see his longtime friend go but understands his choice. Orochimaru, I may not have much strength left, but I can take from you what you hold dear. I'm going to take away your jutsus. He said and tightened his hold on Orochimaru. He signals the death god to seal away the arms of his former student. Orochimaru screams in pain as a spectral begins to leave his body and his arms go numb and turn purple. The death god pulls its arm from Hiruzen through his back, taking his soul with him. Hiruzen puts one last smile on his face before falling to the ground dead. The death god vanished and everyone could only stare at the lifeless body of the professor of shinobi just lying on the roof with a smile on his face. Orochimaru tells his sound 4 to drop the barrier and they do. One grabs his sword and grab him to leave. The Anbu jumped up to stop them but were cut off by a spider web shot from a 6-armed sound ninja. Naruto looked up at the retreating shinobi and locked eyes with the red head of the group. Her eyes told him she was sorry and she wanted to be saved from Orochimaru. Getting the message, Naruto nods and sees a brief sight of happiness in her eyes before they vanish. Naruto walks over to the body of his Gigi and can only look at it. He is soon joined by Junin and Anbu as they all mourn his death. They feel a surge of chakra and look towards Naruto, who unconsciously activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. Shocking all shinobi present. He picks up the body and vanishes. Nobody objected to him. Kakashi wanted to, but a look from Kurenai stopped him in his tracks. Everyone leaves to clean up with the help of the sand ninja. After cleaning, the Junin and Genin in the bunker are told it is safe to come out but hear the news of the Hokage falling in battle. Everyone is shocked to hear this and holds a moment of silence for him before heading out. Anko went out looking for Naruto but couldn't find him. Next day it was pouring rain and they held the funeral for the fallen leaf shinobi and sand shinobi, including the third Hokage. Everyone goes up and places a rose on the table with his picture on it. Naruto showed up but he was hanging away in the back with Jiraiya leaning on the post. They were both tied to as members of Team 7. After a while the funeral was over and the sand shinobi left to return to the sand village. The sun came out and cleared up the sky. As this was going on, 2 figures were looking over the lead village wearing black cloaks with red clouds on them with straw hats on their heads hiding their faces. Well, I guess it survived. The village is in better condition than I thought it would be, said the taller of the 2 men with a sword wrapped in bandages on his back. Not long ago it was at the top of its glory. Look at it now, said the shorter of the two. You sound almost sad. Let me guess you still have feelings for your old home, don't you? The taller one asked. No, none. The shorter man lifted his head a little bit, showing a pair of Sharingan eyes. 2 days after the funeral for the fallen shinobi and Hokage, all the ninja were putting in work helping fix up the village. There were no civilian casualties, however the Leaf lost 100 shinobi, all Chunin, Junin and Anbu. However they were left with one problem. The village needed a Hokage. Nobody knew who was going to take the mantle, but one thing was for sure, they did need one. Oh yeah baby, that's what I like to see, said a certain pervert sitting on top of the Hokage tower looking through binoculars at the women's side of a bathhouse. You'll never change, will you, Jiraiya? Said a voice coming up from behind him. He turned around and saw his teacher's old teammates behind him. Kaharu, Homura, how may I help you today? Jiraiya asked. We have just come out of a council meeting about the next Hokage. The decision has been made that one of the Sannin should become Hokage, and since you are the only one left in the village, you have been made Hokage. Kaharu said. Sorry, I'm not interested. Jiraiya said, shocking Kaharu, but Homaru already saw it coming. Being Hokage doesn't really fit me. I like to be free and move around, not stuck behind some desk doing paperwork all day. However, if you want a Sannin to become the Hokage, I can get you the perfect one for the job. He said. They gained a confused look on their faces. I'm talking about Tsunade. She has the brains for it. She would be a lot better than I would be. He said. While we don't have any doubts that she can do the job, she hasn't been seen in years. Nobody knows where she is. Homaru replied. Don't worry about that. I can find her. After all, I'm not a spy master for nothing. So what do you say? He asked. They thought about it before Homaru answered. Very well, you may go and find her. You have 1 month to get her and bring her back. If not, then you will become the Hokage. Now we will send 3 Anbu Black Ops with you for this mission. Homaru said. No need for that. I already know who I'm taking with me on this mission. Jiraiya said. Who? Kaharu asked. I'm taking Naruto. I have a feeling he can convince Tsunade to come back and become the Hokage. Jiraiya answered. Kaharu was about to explode, but Homaru spoke up. That is fine, you must leave as early as possible to find her. I wish you luck in your search, Jiraiya. He got a nod from Jiraiya, who took off to find Naruto. Why would you let that boy go with Jiraiya? He will be nothing but a distraction to the mission. Kaharu said. Hiruzen trusts the boy, and so should we. You need to let go of your anger towards him. He has done nothing personal to you. You can't blame him for what the fox did. It isn't right. All that hatred is bad for your health, Kaharu. Homaru said before leaving Kaharu to her thoughts. She stayed there for 10 more minutes before walking away. Meanwhile, our favorite shinobi is sitting at Ichiraku's talking to Ayame. So are you sure you're okay, Ayame? He asked, worried about his sister. Yes, Naru-chan, I'm fine. The nurses at the hospital said Anko did a good job. I'll only feel a slight pain for the next couple of days. Good thing the shinobi had horrible aim a little by further down, and I wouldn't be able to have any kids in the future. She said Naruto already knew about her dream of taking over the business, making it into a bigger restaurant and having at least 3 kids. Yeah, I know about your dream. So when am I going to meet this boyfriend of yours? He said, cracking his knuckles only to get hit in the head with her ladle again that appears out of nowhere. Seriously, where does she keep that thing? He thought, rubbing the lump on his head. You will not be intimidating him. But if you must know, he should be here any moment now. She said. Just then the flap opened and somebody walked in. Hello Ayame, how are you doing? Ayame turned around with Naruto and he was immediately on his guard. Something was off. He couldn't feel this guy's emotions. Then he looked at him closely. He wore a pair of shorts and a regular t-shirt. What set him off was the completely fake smile he had on his face that meant one thing. Ayame's boyfriend is a spy from Root to get close to her to get to him. Ayame, get away from him. He said with his eyes closed. Damn it, Naruto, I said you won't be intimidating him. She said, but turned around and met his Sharingan eyes. I said move. She only nodded and went to the back. Naruto sent 3 clones with her discreetly just in case. So why is Danzo having you get close to Ayame? He asked. But he knew the guy couldn't answer. I am not at liberty to say. The Root member said. Well, that's too bad. Before the root member could respond, Naruto already stabbed through his heart, killing him. He sealed the body in a scroll and heard Ayame scream. He rushed to the back and saw another root Anbu trying to take Ayame away, but his clone snuck up and cut his head off. Ayame was there in shock at what was happening. Naruto walked up to her and knelt down to her. Ayame, it's me Naruto, are you okay? He didn't get a response, she just lunges at him and holds on tightly to her. Naruto hugs her and rubs her back, telling her it was going to be okay. Do you want to stay at my house for a while? I can have Anko check up on you from time to time. He asked. She spoke up after 5 minutes of silence. I would like to Naruto, but I'm running the shop more and more now. I think Dad may be close to retiring soon. I can't just get up and leave the shop. She said. Okay, I have a seal I want to place on you. It's like a security seal. If somebody touches you that you don't want touching, you channel chakra into the seal and your body will give off 500 volts of electricity, shocking the person and messing up their nerves. He said. Okay, put it on my shoulder. He nods and she exposes her shoulder and he places the seal on her. You can use it as much as you like. Now, the next time you get a boyfriend, I am interrogating him. She nods at this. So who were they? I mean, why did that guy attack me? She asked. He put up a privacy barrier and told her what route is and who it's run by. So you mean to tell me a member of the council has his own Anbu division illegally running but can't be confronted about it because he legally disbanded them years ago and doesn't leave a paper trail? He nods. You can usually find them because they smile like your ex-boyfriend and they look like they are trying too hard to fit in. She nods at this and will be on the lookout. Now, you didn't have with him, did you? Of course that got him hit with her ladle again. No, I didn't, but if I did, it would be none of your business. She said. Seriously, Ayame, where do you keep that thing? He asked, rubbing the lump on his head. Honestly, I don't know. It's like some kind summons as you ninja would it, I guess. I mean, as much blood as I've spilled on it, I guess it just appears when I want it to. She said. That's it. Thank you, Ayame, you just helped me out big time. He took off but bumped into Jiraiya. Ow. Damn it, Gaki, watch where you're going. Anyway, I was just looking for you. We have an S-ranked mission. Pack up, we leave in an hour. We have 1 month to complete this mission. Jiraiya said. Okay, I just need to run and grab my traveling scrolls. He took off and saw Choji, Ino, Tenten and Shikamaru standing outside of his apartment. What are you guys doing here? He asked. We came to check up on you, Fishcake. Tenten said. His eye twitched at the name. Yeah, Naruto. Nobody has seen you since the invasion ended. You didn't even show up to the funeral. Ino said. I was clearing my head, Panda-chan, and I was at the funeral, Ino. I was just far away in the back next to my sensei. He said. But Naruto Kurenai sensei was in the second row. Choji said. I'm not her student anymore. I've been taken on as Jiraiya of the Sanin's apprentice. Only thing is I can't take the Toad contract since my summons hate roads. He said. What summons do you have, Naruto? Shikamaru asked. Fox summons. Now I would really love to stay, but I have a mission in about 45 minutes. I need to get my stuff. He said. They nodded and left him to pack. He arrived at the gate and saw Jiraiya waiting for him. Alright, you ready to go, pervy sage? He asked with a smirk. Stop calling me that. Jiraiya yelled. Anyway, let's go. We have a month to locate this person. Who are we looking for anyway? He asked. My former teammate Tsunade Senju. She was elected for the Hokage seat. Jiraiya asked, gauging his student's reaction. Okay, so where are we looking for her at? He asked. That's it. No Senju hate speech or anything. I thought all Uchiha hate the Senju clan. Jiraiya asked. Nope, in fact I only dislike one Senju and that's Hashirama, but I'll tell you why when we find her. Naruto said. Alright. Anyway, we're heading to Tanzaku town. It's a gambling town, and if anybody knows Tsunade, it's that she loves to gamble and drink. My contacts in my spy network have spotted her recently arriving there. My guess is she is still there. Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded and they traveled for 3 days before reaching Tanzaku town. They knew they were being followed but played it off. They found a hotel and checked in before leaving to search for Tsunade. Excuse me, but are you Jiraiya, the writer of Ika Ika? They turned around and saw a brown-skinned lady with black hair, and that would make any man look at them. They noticed the glazed look her eyes had and knew she was under a genjutsu, so they decided to play along. Why, yes, I am. I suppose you want an autograph. How about I autograph your two friends as well? He asked with a perverted giggle. Actually, I was headed back to my hotel room. I was wondering if you wanted to join me. She asked. Why, of course I could. Maybe we can create some scenes from my book. He giggled. Alright Naruto, you just head back to the hotel room, I'll be back in a few hours. Jiraiya said. What the hell, pervy sage, we need to find. He was cut off. It will only be a few hours. Here, take the key and wait for me there. He handed Naruto the key and left with the lady. Stupid perv, leaving me alone so he can chase some. Naruto said, keeping up the act. He made it to the room and waited for 5 minutes before the two chakra signatures were in front of his door. Whoever it was knocked. Geez, pervy sage, did you have performance issues? I thought you said a few hours and not seconds. He said. They knocked again, but impatiently. Damn it, I'm coming. He exclaimed. He opened the door and saw Itachi and a fish-looking man standing at his door. Itachi, nice to see you again. Fish face, I've never seen you before. Naruto said. Naruto, we would like you to come with us. Itachi said calmly. Are you sure this is the Jinchuriki? He looks kind of small compared to what I assumed he would look like. Although he wields the Kubikiribocho, so he must be strong. How about I cut his legs off so he can't run away? The fish-like man said. No Kisame, we are not allowed to harm the Jinchuriki. Now Naruto, come with us, we would rather not make a scene. Itachi stated, activating his Sharingan. Naruto activates his Sharingan as well, shocking Itachi that he already had 3 tomos in his eyes. What the hell, Itachi, I thought you killed every Uchiha. Kisame said. No, I didn't kill Naruto because he was never raised in the clan, and as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi I couldn't risk letting it out. He said. He activates his Mangekyo and looks Naruto in his eyes. Tsukuyomi. Naruto appeared in a world tied to a cross with Itachi. Welcome to the world of Tsukuyomi, Naruto. Here I can control whatever happens. This is the only unbreakable genjutsu known to man, only another Mangekyo user can break it. If you want to gain the Mangekyo, you must kill your best friend like I did. Itachi said as he showed him killing Shisui. Yeah, I know how the Tsukuyomi works, Itachi. I also know that's not how Shisui died. So you can stop with the theatrics. So how is your eyesight these days, Itachi? Naruto asked. How do you know so much about the Mangekyo Sharingan? He asked. Shisui told me. Plus I have my own. He activates his Mangekyo Sharingan with his 4 Choku Tomo spinning around his eyes. When did you get those? Itachi asked, shocked that Naruto already has the Mangekyo. The same time you did. So I know all about the Uchiha clan and Danzo trying to kill Shisui for his eyes. However, I don't know what his summons did with them after taking them. Don't worry, I haven't told Sasuke. I know all about what you told him, it's all he ever talks about. Now let me out before I force myself out and ruin your eyes even worse than what they already would be from using this jutsu. Itachi only nodded and released the Tsukuyomi. Back in the real world. After the Tsukuyomi ended, Itachi immediately grabbed his eyes due to the stinging sensation. Itachi, you need to be careful with those eyes of yours. That's the second time you used them today. Why is he still standing? Kisame asked, looking at Naruto standing. The Kyuubi broke him out of the Tsukuyomi. Itachi said, lying to Kisame. But how? That genjutsu is unbreakable, Kisame said. I don't know how, but we need to leave before Jiraiya shows up. I would rather not fight him, even with your help we wouldn't win. Itachi said before they could even move. A voice yelled out. Itachi. They turned and saw Sasuke glaring at Itachi with his Sharingan active. Hey Itachi, who is this? He kind of looks like you. Kisame said. He's my brother. Stay out of this, I'll handle it. He told Kisame. Naruto looked at Kisame, who looked at him. 1500 Ryo says Sasuke charges at Itachi and tries to kill him. Naruto said. Kid, I'm not even that stupid to do something like that. 3000 says he doesn't even try to attack him, just yells at him. Kisame countered. Deal, Naruto said. They turned and looked on to see what would happen. It's like you said, Itachi. I've fostered my hatred for you. I've lived my life for one single purpose, and that is to kill you. Sasuke says as he creates a Chidori. Naruto just smacks his head. I can't believe Kakashi actually taught him that jutsu, as unstable as he is. he thought to himself. He came to when Sasuke charged at Itachi like an idiot, making Kisame sigh at losing 3,000 ryo. Itachi simply knocked the Chidori out of his hand, busting out all of the windows in the hallway. He breaks his wrist and throws him down the hall into another wall before anybody can do anything. Jiraiya appears ready to attack, but Sasuke yells out and charges Itachi again, but Itachi kicks him back down the hall, and before Sasuke can move, Itachi locked eyes with him. Tsukuyomi. 3 seconds later Sasuke passed out, but suddenly a pink substance appeared all around, making Itachi jump back. Ninja art. Toad mouth trap. There's no escaping, you're in the belly of my toad jutsu. Naruto, don't move. Itachi. Kisame, it's over for you two now. Jiraiya said, as Kisame was trying to free his sword substance. Kisame, let's go. They took off running and Kisame got his sword free. Jiraiya wasn't worried since there was no escaping this jutsu, but an explosion was heard and they saw a hole in the wall with black flames on it. Amaterasu flames that burn anything it touches for 7 days and 7 nights. The only way to put them out is for the caster of the flames to put them out. Naruto said as Jiraiya was sealing the flames away. Okay, first we need to figure out what happened to him, and then. He was cut off by a kick to the face. Dynamic entry. Guy came in with a flying kick to Jiraiya's face, much to the amusement of Naruto. What the hell, Guy? Why did you kick me in the face? Jiraiya asked. I am most sorry, Jiraiya-sama. I have been tasked with the youthful mission of retrieving Sasuke here, who left the village once he learned Itachi was here after he overheard us talking about it. Kakashi, Kurenai and Asuma fought them but lost. Kakashi was trapped in some kind of genjutsu his Sharingan couldn't break and has been out ever since. Kurenai has a few broken ribs but is relatively fine. Asuma had his arm shredded by Kisami's sword Samahata. He was getting patched up as I left. I assume Sasuke was trapped in the same genjutsu as Kakashi. He got a nod from both Jiraiya and Naruto. Yeah, it makes finding our target more of a priority. She is the only person who can heal the effects of that genjutsu. Jiraiya said. You mean? Guy was cut off by Jiraiya. Yes, we are looking for Tsunade Senju. Guy, the first need you to take Sasuke back to the village while we continue our search for Tsunade. He immediately regretted this. Do not worry, I shall not fail you, Jiraiya. If I cannot make it back to Konoha, I shall run 1,000 laps on my fingers, and if I cannot do that, then I shall. Jiraiya cut him off. Guy, just go, he said, while pinching his nose. Yash onwards with the flames of youth. Guy says and takes off. Alright, now that he's gone, we can continue our search for Tsunade. She's still in town, so let's go. He looked at Naruto, who narrowed his eyes. What is it? He asked. I made a bet with Kisame and won. He took off without paying me. Jiraiya simply fell to the ground at this. You made a bet with an S-rank shinobi who was out to capture you. He got a nod. Kisame, I know you can hear me. I want my money. He yelled out as soon as he said that a kunai with 3,000 ryo was stuck in the wall next to his face. He pulled the kunai off and counted the money. Thank you. Another kunai with nothing on it hit the wall again. Okay, I got my money, let's go. With that, they searched for Tsunade. It's been 3 days since they've been searching. They searched all day until they got hungry. Let's go in here and grab something to eat. Jiraiya said, pointing at a bar. Naruto shrugged and followed him in. They entered and Jiraiya spotted who they had been looking for. Tsunade. He yelled, causing the blonde to look up at him. Jiraiya, what are you doing here? She asked. Actually, I'm looking for you. You certainly haven't changed a bit since the last time I saw you. When was it exactly when you rejected my love and left? He said, but Naruto could sense a bit of sadness from him. Naruto got a good look at Tsunade. She had on a gray sleeveless blouse shirt and her hair was in 2 pigtails that went past the front of her shoulders, and she had 2 bangs that framed her face. His gaze went lower and noticed the size of her. They were easily the biggest out of everyone around. He doubted anybody would be able to match her in that department. But then he noticed she was using a henge to hide her appearance. So he decided to ask her. Granny Tsunade, why do you wear a henge to hide the way you look? He asked bluntly. What did you just call me? Jiraiya, why don't you teach this Gaki some manners before I beat some into him? She said with a tick mark. Oh please, pervy sage has worse manners than I do. Naruto said. Stop calling me that. Jiraiya yelled, causing everyone in the bar to look at their table. See, he even yells in a public place. Who does something like that? Anyway, can you just answer my question? He asked. No. Now Jiraiya, who is he and why are you here? She asked, making Naruto pout at not getting his question answered, which Tsunade and the lady sitting next to her chuckled at. Naruto heard the second chuckle and looked at the lady. She had short black hair that was just above her shoulders and she wore a bluish-black kimono. He travels lower and her, if he had to guess, were a B cup, maybe even C cup. She also had a pet pig with a necklace pearls on. I'm sorry I didn't notice you there. Who are you? He asked. I'm Shizune, Lady Tsunade's apprentice. Who are you? Shizune asked. I'm Naruto Uchiha, nice to meet you. He said. You're a lot different than the Uchiha I remember -1. Tsunade said. I was never raised by the Uchiha clan. I may have the same bloodline, but I don't consider myself an Uchiha. I don't even wear the Uchiha emblem. He said. Okay, anyway, Tsunade, we need you to come back to the village. You were selected to be the next Hokage and we need your medical experience to heal some ninja. Jiraiya said. Yeah, I heard that sound invaded Konoha during the Chunin exams and Sensei sacrificed himself. Orochimaru told me himself. She said. What did he want with you? Jiraiya asked seriously. You could feel the tension in the air. Nothing much, just stopping by to say hello. She said. You're lying. Naruto spoke up. I can tell I have the same emotion sensing ability as Mito Uzumaki. Who, if I remember correctly, would be your grandmother. He said. Tsunade. What does Orochimaru want you for? Jiraiya asked again. I can't tell you, I'm sorry, Jiraiya. But as for becoming Hokage, I'll pass. You know how I feel about that position. It's a fool's job and only guarantees death in the end. I don't want it, so you can take your offer and leave. She said harshly at the end. I'm sorry, Granny Tsunade, but I can't agree with you on the Hokage thing. You see, being Hokage is my dream and I would want my name up there with the greats of the village. Granted, I openly dislike the first Hokage for being a naive fool, however, everybody after him I respect a great deal. I get it, you're one of the legendary Sannin and the world's greatest medic. But wouldn't it be even better that if you became the first female Kage ever? Think of all the little girls you will inspire even more than them just wanting to become a medic of your caliber. Think about it, you can become known as the person who led Konoha out of the darkness it is heading into. Besides, I highly doubt you want Danzo running your grandfather's village. He finishes to gauge her response and could tell she was in deep thought. She spoke up. Jiraiya, is he your new apprentice? She asked. Yes, but I can't give him the Toad contract since he has the Fox contract already. He said, getting a nod from Tsunade. You've made a good choice after Minato. She said with a small smile. You knew my dad? Naruto asked. Your dad? I never knew Minato had a kid. She said. She froze. Nobody noticed it. Yeah, him and Kiyomi are his parents. Jiraiya said. Yup, those were my parents. Although since I got a good look at you now, you kind of share some similarities to my father. Naruto states. Tsunade froze and Jiraiya noticed this and decided to ask about it later. Oh yeah, similar how? Tsunade asked. Well, for one is the blonde hair. Plus both of your facial structures are kind of similar in eye shape, but he doesn't have the hazel eyes like you do. Naruto said. I have a grandson. Tsunade thought she got up with tears in her eyes and walked to Naruto and pulled him into a hug, something he was confused at but returned anyway. Jiraiya, pay for the food, all of you come back to my hotel room, we need to talk. She said, wiping tears from her face. They all nod and after Jiraiya pays they head up to her room, which was a connecting room, so it was enough room for all of them. Okay, I need a privacy barrier. Tsunade said. Jiraiya tells Naruto to make it and he does. Okay, Jiraiya, do you remember when the second Shinobi War was over and I was heartbroken about losing Dan and Nawaki? He nodded. Do you remember what we did that night? She asked. Yeah, I remember. I also remember you being gone the morning after. He said. Okay, I'm sorry about leaving, it's just that was my first time and I didn't know how to react. I woke up early and left as fast as I could. She said. You could have waited for me to wake up. I was head over heels for you. Despite me being a pervert, I saved myself for you and was happy it happened, but then all that happiness went away and ever since then I've been sleeping around with random women. Jiraiya said angrily. Okay, I get it, Jiraiya, I messed up your life, just listen, after that night I started to feel sick and checked myself, it turned out I was pregnant and I knew you were the father. I tried looking for you, but sensei told me you left to travel the world. 9 months later, Minato was born and I couldn't take care of him. I left him in the orphanage with sensei occasionally giving me letters from him. He knew who I was, but I don't know if he figured out you were his father. He tried to get me to come back to the leaf, but I just couldn't. I didn't know if you were there and I wasn't ready to face you. So I would make up some random C-rank mission and request Minato, making up that I've heard about him and his skills and only trust him with the mission. It was always a 3-week-long mission. We spent 3 weeks together every time Shizune knew Minato. He was like her older brother. Anyway, I told Minato to only tell me about his child after they are born because I know miscarriages can happen. Minato died and I never got word that he had a kid, so I stayed gone. I was proud of Minato for becoming Hokage, but he died shortly after achieving his goal. She was crying at this point. She looked at Naruto. You look just like him except with black hair, but you have your mother's face. Lady Tsunade, you have hazel eyes and Jiraiya has black eyes. Naruto and Minato have blue eyes. Where did they come from? Shizune asked. My grandmother Mito Uzumaki has blue eyes. I guess the genes skipped me and went to Minato, who passed them on to Naruto. She said. Jiraiya, I'm sorry for not telling you. I just couldn't find you and didn't know what to say if I ever found you. Jiraiya said nothing for a few seconds. He sighed and spoke up. I guess it's alright, Tsunade. I mean, I did get to spend 12 years of my life with my son, I guess. Although I do wish we could have raised him as a family. He said. So you aren't my godfather, instead you're my grandfather. Naruto said, and Jiraiya and Tsunade nodded. Sweet, so pervy sage, I have a question. He said. Jiraiya's eye twitched at the name. You're never going to stop calling me that, are you? He got a head shake from Naruto. Okay, what's your question? He asked. Was your book Ika Ika? One night stand about you and Granny Tsunade? If so, that's disgusting. I don't want to know my grandmother was that flexible. He said. Jiraiya, you didn't write a book about me, did you? Tsunade asked with a sickly sweet smile. Jiraiya tried to escape but forgot about the barriers and got the beating of a lifetime. She then turned to Naruto with the same smile. How do you know about that book, Naruto? She asked. Sit down, I guess you should know about my life. It's not like I knew what I was reading. She sat down and Jiraiya, who was magically healed, sat at the table. So Naruto told them about his life in the orphanage, meeting the Ichirakus, Shisui and Samui. He told them about his time as a genin. Okay, so you taught yourself how to read from Jiraiya's books, met Shisui and Samui after a mob beating, met the clan heirs, met Anko and removed 2 of arguably the hardest seals ever. Tsunade asked. Naruto nodded. Okay, anything else? He scratched the back of his head like Minato would do. Well, you see, he said, and started to explain about releasing the Kyuubi and him getting the Fox contract and the Dragon contract. Are you crazy? Why would you trust Kyuubi? It's a being of malice and hate. Jiraiya said. Actually, the Kyuubi isn't normally being of hate and malice. It's actually why I dislike Hashirama, Mito and Kushina. He then goes on to explain the reason the Kyuubi attacked Hashirama, with Madara controlling it and him and Mito knowing about the genjutsu and then still deciding to seal it away. He told them how Hashirama decided to hunt the other tailed beasts on his own while they were just minding their business, and how hypocritical Mito and Kushina were when it came to Jinchuriki and tailed beasts. So you see, all of these wars about who has the strongest village and people being used as weapons and the creation of Jinchuriki. It's all Hashirama and Mito's fault. Now my goal in life is the opposite of the Akatsuki. I want to free the tailed beasts and put a seal on them so they can never be sealed again. All of this war is pointless and unnecessary. Oh yeah, and I want a family, give you both some great grandkids to spoil. He said. His grandparents had smiles on their faces at that. Although Hashirama and Mito are family, I can't help but agree with you. Tsunade said, shocking everyone there. Lady Tsunade, are you sure? I mean, how can you even say that? Shizune asked. Remember, Shizune, I'm a human lie detector. It's literally impossible to lie to me. Naruto said. Speaking of which, why did Orochimaru seek you out, Granny? She sighed at being called that again. He wants me to heal his arms and promises to bring back Nawaki and Dan from the dead. All I needed was 2 human sacrifices. But I can tell he was lying. Even his little apprentice that was with him couldn't hide the greed. I knew they would either try to kill me or capture me if I even was going to help him. She said. His apprentice, did he have silver hair and spectacles on? She nodded. His name is Kabuto. I fought him during the Chunin, could have killed him if we didn't need him to figure out Orochimaru's plan for being in the Chunin exams. I guess I'll have to finish what I started. Do you have any weakness they can use against you in the fight, since it will be 2-on-1? He asks. Tsunade froze up and Shizune answered. She has a fear of blood after witnessing Dan and Nawaki dying in front of her, other than that she kept up with her training since Minato asked her once to keep training so nobody can get the drop on her. She said. How long until you have to meet Orochimaru? Jiraiya asked. We have 2 days left. Tsunade said. Damn it, that's not enough time to get you over your fear of blood. Jiraiya said. Actually, there is pervy sage. Naruto said. Jiraiya immediately refused. Hell no, you're not doing what I think you want to do, no questions asked. He said. What is he trying to do, Jiraiya? Shizune asked. He wants to place her in a genjutsu from his Mangekyo Sharingan that lasts 3 seconds in the real world but 3 days in the genjutsu. The cost is every time he uses it he loses his eyesight. He said. Come on pervy sage, I haven't really used my Mangekyo a lot, so my eyesight is still perfect. It only gets bad once my eyes start to get cloudy and everything is blurry, but clearly my eyes are as bright as the day I was born, so I can do it. Plus we have the world's greatest medic and her apprentice, plus my healing ability left by the Kyuubi, so I can handle it. He said. Jiraiya thought about it for 5 minutes and agreed to it. Okay fine, but as soon as you're done you can't use your eyes unless you are training with the techniques. He got a nod from Naruto, who activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. Shizune, do you think you can heal her brain after this is over with? I might have to do it more than once. He said. Yeah, I can. I've healed people who fell victim to Itachi's genjutsu. It was the exact same thing you just described from what the people told me. She said. Okay, thank you. Granny Tsunade, can you look at me? He asks as she shakily looks up at him. Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi world. Kukuku Tsunade, you failed again, you could have saved Naruto, now look at him. Orochimaru said as he pointed at Naruto bleeding out. Tsunade stood there frozen at this, and this went on for 3 days in the world until it ended. She made some progress, she only froze slightly but never made an attempt to go near it. Real world. The genjutsu ended and Shizune healed Tsunade, who was still asleep from the genjutsu. She woke up groggily, but Naruto immediately did it again. Tsukuyomi. This time on the 3rd day she didn't even hesitate to heal him, and Naruto woke up in the Tsukuyomi and thanked her. Then genjutsu ended and Shizune healed Tsunade again. After she woke up, Naruto cut his palm and held it out to Tsunade, who instantly healed it, much to her own shock. They explained what happened to her and why she didn't hesitate. They each cut their hand and the same result happened. They came up with a plan and just talked for the next hour before going to sleep. 2 days later Tsunade was at the meeting spot and Orochimaru appeared. Kabuto was hanging back. Tsunade knew he was there and was counting on it. So Tsunade, have you decided to help me or not? Orochimaru asked. If I heal you, can you really bring them back? She asked him. He nodded and lifted his arms slightly so she could heal them. Her hands glow green as she walks towards them, but Kabuto throws a kunai in the ground. Kabuto, what are you doing? Orochimaru asked. That jutsu isn't going to heal your arms, it was going to kill you. Kabuto said. Kukuku Tsunade, I thought you wanted to see your lover and brother again. Oh well, Kabuto, kill her. Kabuto nodded but had to jump back as she punched the ground where he was standing. He and Orochimaru jumped away to a clearing and Tsunade gave chase. She landed in the clearing. Kabuto went through hand signs and activated his chakra scalpels and tried to get Tsunade with the headhunter jutsu, but only going to cut her ankles, but she jumped away and sent another punch toward the ground which Kabuto dodged. She jumped at him going for a flying kick, but he disappeared and reappeared to her side and tried to cut her bicep and the back of his thigh, but to his shock she disappeared and delivered a punch to his jaw, shattering it and sending him flying into a boulder. He lays there for 15 seconds healing his broken jaw. He got up and disappeared and used his chakra scalpels to cut her tendons in the arm, her chest and her ankle, but she let him get those hits. Have to avoid anything vital, we can't have you dying yet. Still, you won't be moving anytime soon though. As soon as he finished talking she vanished and chopped him in the neck. Orochimaru is standing off to the side wondering why Kabuto hasn't finished her yet. He knew she hasn't been training. But in actuality she has been and actually learned some ninjutsu, but made a shocking discovery. Kabuto got up to his knees but couldn't move his body anymore and he didn't know why. I scrambled your nerves if you're wondering why you can't move your body properly. She said and delivered a spinning back fist to his face, sending him flying and crashing into the ground. He figured out how to move his body and pulled out a kunai and ran at her. I heard you fear the sight of blood. Let's put it to the test, shall we? He said. She let him get close and he cut her arm. She faked like she was scared. He kicked her away. You're a disgrace to all medics around. Afraid of blood, it's a part of what we do. You should be ashamed of yourself, Tsunade. He gets ready to kill her, but he doesn't see the smirk on her face. As soon as he gets close, she uppercuts him, sending him flying through the air and landing hard on the ground. She drops a smoke bomb and Naruto, Shizune and Jiraiya appear. Kukuku, what a reunion. All three of the legendary Sannin together again. It almost warms my heart, and you've brought Naruto. A shame I can't have your body for my own. Orochimaru said, licking his lips. What the dude, you're a pedophile too. I'm 13 and you're talking about taking my body for your own. I need an adult. Naruto said. I know I'm attractive, but I'm sorry dude, I like women. Besides, isn't that why you have 4 eyes over there? He pointed at Kabuto, who managed to heal himself. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Shizune were struggling to keep their laughter in. Orochimaru could only grit his teeth at this. Kabuto, leave Tsunade and Jiraiya to me. Take Naruto and Shizune. Orochimaru said. Seriously, you send Kabuto after me? Do you not remember what I did to him at the Chunin exams and he was going all out? I mean, I'm almost as strong as you guys. He said, pointing at the 3 Sannin. I want this over quickly. Shizune, I know you can fight, but you are more suited for medical. Do you mind if I handle him myself? He asked. Sure, go ahead Naruto. She said. Thanks. He said from behind Kabuto. Everybody was shocked, nobody saw him move. He then kicked Kabuto in the back of the head, sending him flying, and chased after him. Naruto started to punch and kick him. Everything was hitting Kabuto, who was confused since he thought he was blocking everything. What he didn't know was that since Naruto had his Sharingan activated and kept casting a genjutsu to make him see everything in the opposite direction. While this was going on, Tsunade and Shizune were staring in shock that Naruto was beating Kabuto so easily. Jiraiya, how strong is he really? Tsunade asked. He wasn't lying when he said he is almost as strong as us. I mean, we are all Kage level shinobi and he is at low Sannin level, maybe even mid Sannin level now. I'm afraid your friend is as good as dead, Orochimaru. Jiraiya said, watching Naruto pick Kabuto up by the neck and punch him relentlessly in the face before dropping him and kicking him away. It's a bit brutal, don't you think? Shizune asked. No, it's not. Naruto is doing this because Kabuto played a part in our sensei's death, and given how close the two were, Naruto is making sure Kabuto can't hurt anybody close to him again. But if you feel Naruto, there is no hate or malice coming from him. I don't know how he does it, but it makes him a greater shinobi than I ever could have been. Jiraiya said. All of them were shocked, even Orochimaru. He couldn't lose Kabuto, so he rushed at Naruto, but Naruto felt him coming and turned around, trapping him in paralyzing Sharingan Genjutsu. It's just like what Itachi did to me. Damn it, I fell for it again. Naruto made a clone to finish Orochimaru off, but Kabuto intercepted the clone and destroyed it, freeing Orochimaru from the Genjutsu, who had to jump back from a sky kick that Tsunade used and broke the ground underneath her. Soon Jiraiya and Tsunade started fighting Orochimaru, who was having difficulties since he couldn't use his arms. I need to summon Manda. He thought. Kabuto, it's time. He yelled. Kabuto nodded and jumped to Orochimaru and swiped some of Orochimaru's blood from his wounds on a summoning tattoo and summoned Manda and a battle snake with his own blood to fight Naruto. Tsunade and Jiraiya both summoned their boss summons to take on Manda. Katsuyu, it's good to see you again. Gamabunta said. Likewise Gamabunta, it's been far too long. Katsuyu replies. Well, if it isn't the weaker and lesser summons Gamabunta and Katsuyu. Manda said. Orochimaru, I demand 100 sacrifices after this fight is over. Orochimaru nodded and Manda charged at Gamabunta and Katsuyu. While Kabuto went after Naruto with his battle snake. Naruto, seeing this, bites his thumb and goes through hand signs of his own. Summoning jutsu. Out of the smoke comes a giant 8-tailed fox a bit smaller than Kurama. Ah, you must be young Naruto. Kurama and Scarlet have told me much about you. I am Narumi, Kurama's mate. How can I help you today, Kit? Narumi asks. Can you take out that battle snake for me, and if you'd like, after you defeat it you can go take on Manda if you want, but don't attack Gamabunta, he's on our side. Naruto said. I can do that for you. Naruto, just hop off my head, I tend to get wild. Narumi said. Naruto jumps off her head and she immediately charges the snake, making Kabuto jump off, but he was met by Naruto as soon as he landed. Naruto started to beat him again and Kabuto couldn't focus his healing chakra fast enough to heal his wounds, so he was feeling the effects of every punch and kick thrown his way. After a while Naruto got bored of this and hit Kabuto with a Rasengan, but was slightly shocked when he stood up, but figured he added all his chakra into the area of his attack to cancel out some damage. Nice job focusing enough chakra to the center of your stomach. However, you are completely drained. You should have waited and used your remaining chakra to heal yourself after the Rasengan hit you. Now it's time for you to die. He used his water manipulation to create whips of water to hold onto Kabuto's arms and legs. He creates a Rasengan in his hand, but to everyone's shock it continues to grow to the size of a fully blown up balloon. It's over for you, Kabuto. Naruto said. Kabuto tried to speak, but Naruto used his water manipulation to create a water prison over Kabuto's head, drowning him in the process. Giant Rasengan. Naruto shoves the giant Rasengan into Kabuto's gut and it grinds into him until it tore through his stomach, and Naruto released the water manipulation and Kabuto was sent flying through the boulders behind him. Naruto walked up to him and made sure he was dead. He wanted to make sure. Orochimaru looked on in shock that his right hand was killed so brutally. He needed to make a retreat, so he sent Manda back to the summons world. I'll be back and I'm going to kill you, Naruto. He said as he started to sink into the ground. Naruto, Tsunade and Jiraiya release their summons as well. So Naruto, you feel better knowing one person involved in Sensei's death is gone? Jiraiya asks. Yeah, I am, but it's still more out there. He responded. Yeah, you have Orochimaru and his Sound 4 that held the barrier, right? Jiraiya asked. No, not all of the Sound 4. He said. What do you mean? I thought you would want them all dead. Jiraiya said. No, it was a redhead girl in the group. When I looked up at her eyes, she had a look that said she didn't want to do it and was sorry, but also she wanted away from Orochimaru. It was if she was being held there against her will. He said. Wow, I wonder where he found her. Shizune said. It doesn't matter. When we get back to Konoha, when the opportunity presents itself, Naruto, you have permission to bring any and all Uzumaki you find back to Konoha. Tsunade said. So that means you're accepting the Hokage position, Granny Tsunade? Naruto asked. I wish you would stop calling me that. But yes, I am taking the Hokage position. He said. Everyone cheered. You still haven't answered my question from earlier. Why do you wear a henge to hide your appearance? Naruto asked. It's because she looks old and wrinkly underneath it. Jiraiya said and got a kick to his balls courtesy of Tsunade. But how can she be old and wrinkly? She has Uzumaki genes and she should have stopped aging at about 30. Hell, I bet if you tried you could have another baby. Naruto said. Everyone was in shock at what he said. Tsunade gave it a shot, releasing the henge she's had on since she found a gray hair. When the smoke cleared, she looked relatively the same except a couple bags under her eyes from a lack of sleep, and that one gray hair she had was no longer there. She did a scan over her body and to her shock she still could have kids if she wanted. I don't believe it. You're still as beautiful if not more than you were with the henge. Jiraiya said. Tsunade blushed lightly at this and Naruto caught it and smirked. Thank you, Jiraiya. She said. So are you guys going to get back together or what? Naruto asked. Hell no, I do not want to be with that pervert. Tsunade said. You know you can't lie to me, right? Naruto asked. Jiraiya then scooped Tsunade up bridal style and took off. Don't come back to the room until about 10 p.m. He yelled and Tsunade slapped him but didn't argue with him. What can she say? It's been a while since she had some. In fact, Jiraiya was her only time. Naruto looked at a watch he had and it was only 2 p.m. So what should we do for the next 8 hours? He asked Shizune. What do you mean? You don't think she will go along with it, do you? She asked. She didn't argue and gave him light slaps, so I would guess that room is going to smell like sweat and alcohol. He said. So wanna play some games at the fair and get some food? Shizune shrugged and that's what they did for 8 hours. They played games and ate food. They returned to their room and Tsunade was glowing. Well, looks like you two had fun. From the smell in the room, I'd say you just got done maybe 20 minutes ago. Naruto said. How do you know what smells like, Naruto? Tsunade said. I grew up in the red light district. I'm like a little brother to the laddies in the brothel houses there. Hell, I've seen that pink-haired council member working there before. He said. Okay, can we stop talking about this? It's uncomfortable. Shizune pleaded. Shizune, have you ever even done it before? I mean, I know I'm one to talk, but I'm 13. What's your excuse? Naruto asked. If you must know, I'm waiting for the right guy to come by. I haven't met him yet. But I'm too busy working, and the guys I have met only want to get in my pants. She said. Okay, fair enough. So how about this, if you let me set you up with somebody, he may be a few years younger than you. I think you'll like him, if not I'll pay you 20,000 ryo. Deal? Naruto asked. Deal, Shizune said, and they shook on it. Great. Now can we go to sleep? I'm tired and we have a 3-day trip back. Everybody looked at him. What? He asked. Why can't we just fly on your dragons? We still have 3 weeks left in the mission, Naruto. Jiraiya said. Oh yeah, you're right, but I'm not trusting Danzo to not do something while we're gone, so we leave in a week. Is that fair? He asked. They thought it over and nodded. So for the next week they all bonded, and Jiraiya paid off all of Tsunade's debt, which was a lot but didn't put a dent in his account. Shizune and Naruto bonded the most due to Jiraiya and Tsunade going out on dates every day. Shizune even got to calling Naruto her little brother, and Naruto called her his big sister. The week was over, and now Naruto was about to summon a dragon to take them home. Summoning jutsu. Out of the giant puff of smoke, a dragon with silver skin that looked like armor and 4 gems along its neck with 3 on the body and huge silver wings appeared. Greetings, Naruto. I am called Niji, the fastest dragon outside the boss and elder. I am mainly used for transport. How can I be of service? Niji asked. Can you take us about an hour of travel from Konoha? Niji nods and lowers his head for them to climb on. Once they are secure, he takes off to the skies. Naruto, why are we only going an hour outside of Konoha? Jiraiya asked. Because I don't want the village to know about my contract with the dragons, and plus Niji is like 200 feet long. I don't think the villagers would be too pleased about him just landing in the middle of the village. He said. He gets a nod from Jiraiya. They land an hour away from the village, and Naruto thanks Niji, who disappeared in a puff of smoke. They walked the rest of the way and made it to the gate where the eternal gate guards were sleeping. Tsunade went to punch them, but Naruto stopped her. Ever since the invasion they haven't left this post and haven't even gone home. They've been here for about 3 weeks straight. He said, and she nodded. Shizune walked over and woke up Azumo. Yeah, welcome to Konoha. I need to see your passes, please. Azumo asked, wiping the sleep out of his eyes. Jiraiya and Naruto returning from an S-class mission with Tsunade Senju, Shizune, Kato and Taunton. Jiraiya said. As soon as Azumo heard the name he stood and bowed, but it was a little too hard and his head went through the desk. Oh sorry Jiraiya-sama, Lady Tsunade, I didn't recognize you, please go ahead. Azumo answered, but then he looked at Shizune, who blushed at being stared at. He waved Naruto over and whispered. Yo Naruto. Who's the babe with the black hair? Introduce me, will ya? He said. Shizune. This is Azumo, one of the Eternal Gate guards. He's single, hasn't had a girlfriend, and is the guy the first was talking about. Now Azumo, Shizune will meet you at the Akamichi barbecue restaurant later at about 8, so don't be late. With that he walked into the village next to Tsunade and Jiraiya. Shizune was still at the gate talking to Azumo. As they were walking, Naruto noticed he didn't get as many glares and chalked it up to him being with 2 of the legendary Sannin. However, his efforts during the invasion, killing off many sound shinobi and blank-masked Anbu, gained him much respect in the eyes of the villagers. They made it to the council room where she had to get voted in. Alright, as promised, I brought back Tsunade Senju for the title of Hokage. Jiraiya said, with Naruto standing next to him. He has to leave. One of the civilian council members said. Actually he doesn't, since he was on the mission. Jiraiya states. Yes, that's fine, can we get this over with now? My feet are hurting for traveling 3 days straight. Tsunade said. It was a lie, but they didn't need to know that. We are here to vote if Tsunade Senju is to become the next Hokage. Homaru said. By a vote of hands we shall determine if she will become Hokage. Now all those for her becoming the 5th Hokage. All the clan heads and civilian council raised their hands, as well as Homura and Kaharu. All those against it. Only Danzo raised his hand and spoke. I don't think we should have her as Hokage. She hasn't been seen in years in the village and could have been working with the enemy for all we know. Plus, rumors have it that she has a huge gambling debt. We can't have someone that has debt collectors after her as Hokage. I think we should choose someone else. He said before anybody could agree with him. Naruto spoke up. Too bad nobody cares about what you think, you one-eyed pedophile. The vote has already gone through and you can't change it. The only person who can is the Fire Daimyo, and we both know he values the Senju name more than someone's pathetic temper tantrum. However, if you really want to take the Hokage position for yourself, you're more than welcome to fight me on her behalf for it. He finished activating his Sharingan. Tsunade and Shizune, who just entered the chamber, snickered at what he called Danzo. He said nothing in response, just gritted his teeth. Very well, as of now the new Hokage will be Tsunade Senju. The coronation will be held in 2 hours. Homaru said and ended the meeting. 2 hours later, Tsunade was sworn in as Hokage, and as her first job as Hokage she went to heal Kakashi and Sasuke and take a look at Lee, who was still in the hospital after his fight with Naruto during the Chunin exams. Kakashi was first. She walked in the room and healed him. He woke up and she spoke. Seriously, you're known as Kakashi of the Sharingan. One would think you know better than to look a Sharingan user in the eye. He looked down and she left. Naruto led her to Sasuke's room. When they reached the door, they heard a sucking noise. Jiraiya started giggling like the pervert he is as he knew that sound. Naruto just sighed. Not again. He said. What is it, Naruto? Shizune said. Nothing, Shizune, you'll find out why after I say a certain name. He said. Tsunade knocked on the door and a popping sound was heard and covers moving around. Somebody cleared their throat and spoke. Come in. The voice said. Naruto, Shizune, Tsunade and Jiraiya entered the room to see a blushing Sakura with her messy hair. Before anybody could speak, Naruto spoke up. Hey Spitter, getting your daily dosage, I see. At that, Jiraiya busts out laughing while Tsunade and Shizune blush at what he means and understood what she was in here doing. Okay, I'm gonna heal him so you can get back to whatever it was you were doing. Tsunade said. She quickly heals Sasuke and left with everybody else not wanting to see what happens next. Sure enough, once the door closed, the sucking noise continued. She made it to the room Lee was in and checked him over. Alright Lee, you'll have to be patient. Your injury is worse than you thought, on top of the injuries from using 5 of the 8 gates when your body isn't ready for that yet. You also have bone fragments in multiple parts of your body. Surgery now will most likely kill you, so I'm going to do some research for the next couple of months and try something so the survival rate of your surgery is more in your favor, alright? She said. Lee only nodded his head at that. After she checked Lee, they went to the Hokage's office when Naruto immediately threw a kunai in the ceiling, and at the plant that was in the corner of the room out from both places fell a blank masked Anbu from the root division. Thank you, Naruto, I'll make sure to have a sensor in my Anbu guard. Now I have to go through all the paperwork for the Chunin exams and rebuilding of the village. You wouldn't happen to know a way to get this done quicker, would you? She asked with puppy dog eyes. He shook his head at his grandmother's antics but answered. Shadow clones, but only use 3 or 4 so memories don't get mixed up. Release them one at a time every 30 seconds for the memories to settle in. He said. She hugged him and gave him a kiss on the forehead. I will. Now get out of here. I have to look through the results of the Chunin exams and the invasion to see if there were any recommendations for a field promotion or not. I'll have the results next week. She said. Naruto left and Shizune went to set up her office. Mina quit after the death of Hiruzen. She didn't feel right working for another Hokage, and Tsunade understood that. Jiraiya stayed back for a while before leaving. Okay Tsunade, I'm off to check on my contacts. I'll be back in a month to check in on everything. Also in 6 months I want to take Naruto on a training trip for 2.5 years. He said. What will you be teaching him during the next 2.5 years, Jiraiya? She asked. Everything from ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, hell, even my spy network, just in case something happens to me or I decide to retire. Jiraiya said. Alright, but can you stay for a little while longer? I'm not going to see you for a whole month. She said. He nodded and sat back on the couch where she joined him. They talked on the couch and cuddled up for another 2 hours before he left. She gave him a kiss and he jumped out the window. She created her shadow clones and began to work on the paperwork. A week later, all the Chunin, Junin senseis and Genin-Lee, were in the Hokage's office for the results of the Chunin exams and the invasion for everybody who got a promotion. Now all of you are here today for the results of the Chunin exams and who was recommended for a promotion. As well as any field promotions for actions during the war. Tsunade said. Now during the Chunin exams, since only Naruto fought in the finals, I don't really have anything to go on, so I had to rely on the exhibition round matches and the invasion. First up, Shikamaru Nara. The Junin and Chunin were impressed by your tactical thinking and plan making during the invasion. Also they talked about how you showed great leadership like your father did at your age but better. I hereby grant you the rank of Chunin. She said. He walked up and received his Chunin vest and bowed before returning to the line. Next up for promotion, Shino Aburame. Like Shikamaru, the Chunin and Junin were impressed by your leadership skills and ability to remain calm during the fight with sound shinobi, as well as your abilities in helping Shikamaru strategize. I grant you the rank of Chunin. Shino stepped forward and like Shikamaru he bowed and received his vest. Next is not a promotion, however, a notice. 1010. The Anbu captain and commander were both impressed by your use of weapons during the Chunin exams and invasion, mainly your versatility in using them. However, they want you to add some ninjutsu to your arsenal and become a Chunin, and you will have an Anbu invitation waiting for you. Tenten was shocked and could only nod. Choji Akamichi, you were recommended for a field promotion to Chunin, however the Junin and Chunin feel that it would be best for you to try the Chunin exams again when they come up again. But they are pretty high on you, and if you do good on your upcoming missions I may promote you myself. She said, and Choji nodded. Ino and Sakura, the Junin and Chunin, were disappointed in both of your performances during the invasion, more so Sakura than Ino. Ino, you at least tried to fight off 4 sound shinobi despite you knowing you wouldn't win, but they were disappointed by how easily you gave up, but they chalked it up to your low chakra reserves. They did, however, say you show great promise and recommend you get serious and take the Chunin exams again. Ino nodded. Sakura, I don't even know how you became a shinobi. Your skills are horrible. You haven't improved, and from reports before the Chunin exams you never tried to improve at all. During the invasion you were refusing to fight and were quoted saying, "It is not my job to fight, I am a girl." Newsflash, I fought in a war, one am a girl as well. Once you put on the headband you are sworn in to fight for the leaf. I don't know what happened, but the only real kunoichi in this room besides myself, Shizune, the Chunin and Junin are Tenten and Hinata. You have 3 months to improve or you are going to be kicked from the shinobi program. Tsunade said. She didn't even wait for a response. Hinata Hyuga, the Junin watching you were impressed by your Byakugan tracking skills. They say you can see further than most Junin within your clan. They say you provided medical treatment with some ointment you made yourself that I would like to look at sometime. They would have recommended you for Chunin, however they say your taijutsu style is still incomplete, so when you finish and it is at a level worthy of Chunin they recommend a test before you are promoted. Hinata nodded at this. Neji Hyuga, you were not recommended for a promotion. You have the skills and brains for a Chunin, however you do it have the right attitude to become a Chunin yet. Get your attitude fixed and retake the Chunin exams next time. They believe you won't spend much time as a Chunin anyway, so get your attitude in check and you retake the Chunin exams. Tsunade said, and Neji bowed. Hiba Inazuka, you are not even recommended for the Chunin rank or anything. You were said to be arguing against orders and trying to get with some of the civilian girls your age while in the bunker. It also states that if you weren't physically stopped you would have forced yourself on them. Now I had a punishment for you, however your mother and sister will be waiting at home for your punishment. Tsunade said and smirked when Kiba paled at that. Sasuke Uchiha. Said boy stepped forward with his chest puffed out and head held high. I suggest you deflate your chest and lower your head. The reports on you are worse. Abandoning your post during the invasion, which resulted in more than one civilian getting injured due to sound ninja getting through. Also you left the village without permission to fight your brother when you heard he was around looking for Naruto. That reminds me, Kakashi, what the hell were you thinking teaching an unstable boy the Chidori? Tsunade asked. All Junin present were shocked that he actually taught him that. Well, he reminds me so much of myself at his age that I figured he was meant to learn it. I wouldn't have taught him it if I didn't think he could handle it. He said, not reading his book for once. So you teach an unstable genin who was well known as being unstable, an assassination technique and a horrible one at that. Tsunade stated. I'm sorry Lady Tsunade, but the Chidori is the perfect assassination technique, so I'll have to disagree with you on that. Kakashi said. Really? Naruto, can you create your jutsu for me? She asked. Naruto nodded, and 1 second later his lightning edge was in his hand, but unlike the Chidori, his was red and made no sound. That Kakashi is the perfect assassination technique. It makes no noise, so you can't hear it a mile away. You also don't need a running start for it to be effective. She said. Now Sasuke, for your actions you are suspended for a year from any and all ninja activities. This also means training. She said. He tried to argue, but Naruto slapped a silencing seal on him. Now Naruto Uchiha, you were recommended for the Chunin position as well as Lee during the exhibition rounds. However, Lee will have to wait until after his surgery. You did a number on his body, but in a few weeks I should be able to perform his surgery without any complications. Now during the war you were responsible for taking out squads of sound shinobi while also taking out the snake summons that were supposed to do damage with your fox summons. What was their names again? She asked. They never told me their individual names. I just know they are called the Omega Brothers. Separate, the three of them can take on a squad of battle summons themselves. However, together they are rumored to be able to actually push the boss summons of the foxes into using over 75% of his power if they work together, and I've told you how strong the boss fox was. Naruto said. Okay, also you were said to have taken on a squad of blank masked Anbu, also tasked with the intention of capturing you or killing you. You've done a lot during the war that even the Fire Daimyo has taken a notice of you. She said, shocking everyone including Asuma, as he knew what could happen if the Fire Daimyo took an interest in you. Now you were recommended for the rank of Chunin, however you had just as many recommendations for Junin, so I welcome you the rank of Special Junin. Congratulations. She said and tossed him a Junin vest. Now what happened next shocked everyone. Thank you, Granny Tsunade. He yelled and scooped her up in a big hug. Everybody was shocked that he openly called her that and just gave her a hug. Tsunade, being embarrassed, did one thing that would save her from embarrassment. She hit him with an uppercut through the roof that sent him so high it took him 5 minutes to come back down. He crashed through the ceiling and made a hole the shape of his body in the ground. He just got up like nothing happened. No cuts, no bruises, nothing. He was just smiling. Must be a genetic thing. Tsunade thought. Anyway, I have one more announcement to do. She said. Kurenai, being confused, spoke up. Excuse me, Lady Tsunade, but all the genin who were recommended were promoted. She said. Yes, I know. Anko Mitarashi stepped forward. She said. Anko hesitantly stepped forward. Now I've read your file and mission reports. You have a near squeaky clean record except for some anger problems. However, it was reported that was due to men trying to feel you up and you brutally retaliating. However, you haven't had an incident in the last 6 going on 7 months. She said. Yeah, I've got a boyfriend now and he helped me with my anger a lot. She said, smiling at the thought of Iruka. Good for him. I won't say who it is, but I'm happy for the both of you. Now, as I've said, I looked over your file and I was deeply impressed. However, what impressed me the most was the fact that you showed great leadership skills when you were in charge of protecting the civilians in the bunker. -1 dumb genin leaving while you were distracted. Also good going on healing the civilian that was hurt. Now it is also rumored that you and Kurenai may be even stronger than Kakashi now due to your extreme training the past 6 months. Now it is my pleasure to welcome you, Anko Mitarashi, to the full rank of Junin. Congratulations, you've earned it. She said. Anko stood there in shock and crying that she finally got promoted. Kurenai and Naruto walked up to her and gave a big hug that she immediately returned. Now that the promotions are over, everyone may leave except Naruto and Anko. Tsunade said. Everybody left and Tsunade let out a sigh. That was easy enough, I guess. Now Naruto, you have 2 scrolls here in your name, but one doesn't say from who. She hands him the scroll. He opens it and a letter falls out. He picks it up and reads it but is shocked at what's inside. No way. He said. What is it, Naru-chan? Anko asked. I've been invited to join the Guardian 12 by the Fire Daimyo himself. He said. Tsunade was shocked by this because she just got her grandson in her life and now the Fire Daimyo wanted to take him away. Anko wasn't really shocked since she heard that the Daimyo only came to the Chunin exams to see Naruto fight. He opened the last scroll and it was the marriage contract. Oh hell no, can I have a pen and paper, Granny? He asked. She handed it to him and he quickly wrote a response and sent a messenger hawk to deliver it. What was that, Gaki? Tsunade asked. It was a stupid marriage proposal contract. I gave them my response though. He said. What was your response? She asked. I told them not a chance in hell. He said. Okay, I have a question. Why didn't you punch him when he called you granny this time? Anko asked. Simple. He's my grandson. Tsunade replies while bringing Naruto into a hug that he returned. Now that you mention it, you do have similar facial features. So who's the grandfather? Let me guess, it's Jiraiya. She said, laughing at the end. She was met with a serious face from Tsunade. You're joking, right? Why him? She asked. Contrary to what you believe, Anko, he wasn't always like this much of a pervert that has to do with me. After we had the best night of my life after Minato was born. I just woke up and left him the next day. He hadn't seen me until he came and got me. He told me that me walking out led him to sleeping with any women that would offer him. I did love him actually more than Dan, the guy the first was with, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him. Tsunade said. Okay, so are you guys together now or what? I mean, you look like you can still push out kids, and despite him being who he is, I've seen his medical reports on accident, he keeps himself in top shape, he has a checkup every 2 months. She said. I don't know, Anko. I mean, we've talked about it but never really made any move to be together again. She said. Okay, that's enough of that talk. The daimyo wants me to come in 6 months and stay for 2.5 years. Naruto said. Shit. Naruto, Jiraiya was planning on taking you on a training trip in 6 months for that exact amount of time. Tsunade said. Well, maybe I can go do the Guardian 12 and the daimyo can allow Jiraiya to grab me every 3 months to train. Do you think he will accept this? Naruto asked. I'll have to ask him. I'll write a message to him and see. She said. Now go on and enjoy your day. She said. Anko left in a swirl of leaves. Okay, bye Granny Tsunade. Shizune, tell Izumo I said hey. He disappeared in a swirl of blue flames, narrowly avoiding the stapler Shizune threw at him. So Izumo, huh? Tsunade asked with a smirk. Shizune could only blush and leave the room. Tsunade laughed and pulled out her alcohol. This might actually be fun. She said, and created her clones and started the paperwork.